Chapter 1526. Comrade, you're finally here. Our people are ready and we'll act tonight. Take me to your hiding place later, and we'll pick you up and leave here tonight. As soon as Gohan and Song Yifei entered the small house, they found a middle-aged man in the house talking to Gohan and Song Yifei eagerly, although Gohan could not understand a word he said. However, this did not mean that Gohan did not find anything else. On the contrary, Gohan made a huge discovery about this person. Although this person was dressed exactly like the natives of this world, Gohan could feel an aura that the natives of this alternate dimension did not have from this person. How should he put it? Unlike the rigid, sorrowful, and despairing natives in this alternate dimension who rarely had emotional changes, Gohan felt sunshine, passion, nervousness, and many other emotions from this person. More importantly, this person had a confident temperament, which only humans who lived and grew up in a normal environment would have. To put it simply, this human did not seem to be a native of this alternate dimension, but seemed to come from the outside world like Gohan and Song Yifei. If judging from his temperament, he seemed to be very idealistic, then the looming dimensional pocket on his waist perfectly exposed his identity. Not only was this guy not a native here, but he was also a sword-bearer. Since he was a sword-bearer, it was easy to deal with him. Gohan did not bother to pretend anymore, so he directly said to the man in Chinese, "Which base city are you from? Why are you here? Who are you?" The man was taken aback. He immediately took out his sword lady from his dimensional pocket. But he quickly reacted. No matter how he looked at it, this human in front of him shouldn't be his enemy. "My name is Gu Fan, and this is my wife, Song Yifei. We are both famous sword-bearers in Yuzhong City." Gohan used his son's name as soon as he opened his mouth. After all, the name Gohan was not very suitable to be used. Because Song Yifei had been missing in the human world for 20 years, not many people knew about him. It was not a big deal even if he used his real name. Hearing that she was Gohan's wife, Song Yifei blushed and leaned on Gohan's shoulder shyly like a wife. "Oh my God, people from Yuzhong City. Isn't Yuzhong City being besieged by the 12 Zuwus? What are you doing here?" After seeing Gohan take out his famed sword Maiden's hilt, the other party immediately relaxed and asked Gohan curiously, knowing that the sword Maiden wouldn't lie. Yes, Yuzhong City was about to be finished, but then Xihua Jiandi appeared. Anyway, Yuzhong City's crisis has been resolved. Now humans are moving to Yanjing City, preparing to rebuild our world. Come on, what's going on with you? Why are you here? My name is Feng Wuzhong. No, my name is Amakusa Ichiro. I'm a sword wielder of the Moscow base city. Just from my name, you can tell that I'm a sword wielder of the Yamato clan. After our Moscow base was attacked, I didn't have time to evacuate with the rest of the troops, so I came to Fusang Island to take a risk, hoping to see the scenery of my hometown and have a memory before I die. In the end, I accidentally stumbled into this dimensional gap and found that all the humans here had become slaves. I was so sad and angry that I wanted to save them all. Amakusa Ichiro said. By the way, you mentioned Xihua Jiandi just now. Is this Xihua Jiandi the former chairman of the Sword Committee Union, Xihua Sword Deity, Lord Xihua? Amakusa Ichiro asked curiously. Didn't I hear that Lord Xihua was killed by the 12 Zuwus? Why has she returned and even become the Xihua Sword Emperor? Could it be that she has already ascended the throne and proclaimed herself as the Xihua Sword Emperor? That's right. Let me tell you, Lord Xihua was not killed by the 12 Zuwus. He was betrayed by that damned Ing Zheng. However, the Xihua Sword Emperor was blessed by the heavens, and he was actually saved by her master, the Hongjun Sword Emperor, who was passing by. After Hongjun Jiandi cured Sword Deity Xihua, Sword Deity Xihua endured hardships until he had the power of an emperor sword wielder. He even jumped out and killed the 12 Zuwus and Ing Zheng, giving us humans a peaceful world. This was not said by Gohan, but by Song Yifei. What? Sword deity Shihua has become the emperor? Hasn't he been missing for almost 20 years? Once again, Amakusa Ichiro was shocked. More importantly, Gohan realized that Amakusa Ichiro had actually heard of his name and knew of the existence of sword deity Hongjun. For a young sword wielder of the sword level, this was a very strange thing. After all, Gohan was already an internet celebrity at that time. I heard that he went to some mountain cave to fool around with some wild women. I also know that. At this point, Song Yifei rolled his eyes at Gohan and continued. Here's the thing. We were ordered by Shihua Jiendi to look for Master Wuzhang Shifang, the missing immortal sword wielder. Someone reported seeing Master Wuzhang Shifang on Fusang Island, so Shihua Jiendi asked us to come and take a look. If we found Master Wuzhang Shifang in trouble, we should try our best to rescue him, or report to Yanjing City. Shihua Jiendi will personally come to rescue Master Wuzhang Shifang. After all, humans have suffered heavy losses, and we don't want to give up on any immortal sword wielder. How do you know that Master Wuzhang Shifang is still alive? Amakusa Ichiro was shocked by Song Yifei's words, and then seemed to realize that he had said the wrong thing, so he immediately said, I mean, isn't Master Wuzhang Shifang dead? He's still alive. Amakusa Ichiro pretended to be shocked. I don't know either, so Shihua Jiendi ordered me to come here and see if I could find Master Wuzhang Shifang. As a result, I came here by chance, Gohan replied. Do you know anything about Master Wuzhang Shifang? Tell me, so we can report to our superiors. Gohan said excitedly. I don't know. I don't know anything. Amakusa Ichiro waved his hand. Then forget it. Gohan sighed helplessly, then looked around and asked curiously, What's going on here? Why are there so many humans in this place, and the language of the humans here is very strange. It sounds like your Fusang language, but it sounds different. Do you know what's going on? Actually, I'm not too sure myself, but I've been here for a few months now, and I've vaguely figured out some things. Amakusa Ichiro's eyes darted around as he took the initiative to explain to Gohan. I believe you've seen it along the way. The demons here are not primordial bandit. They don't have dimensional energy, so they're not primordial bandits from the outside world. They're demons born and raised in this world. As for why these monsters live here, I don't know. As for these humans, they seem to be the descendants of refugees who escaped here from the Great Apocalypse era. I don't know how these human ancestors escaped in here, but they were discovered by this monster. They captured these humans and made them their slaves, making them catch the longevity fruit, which is also a red-skinned insect. The humans here have been enslaved by these damned monsters for thousands of years, and what they eat are all strange pills made from some mud and stones by the monsters. They are called fortune pills by the humans here. Although eating one can make one hungry, eating too many of them can easily make one's brain stupid. These humans eat too many fortune pills, and their brains are in a mess, to the point that the original Fusang language is messed up. If I hadn't lived here for a few months and barely understood the grammar of the Fusang language here, I wouldn't have been able to understand what they were saying. Sigh. At this point, Amakusa Ichiro sighed, and said with a face full of pity, Although the humans here are a little stupid, they are all our compatriots. I definitely can't watch them suffer here and ignore them. So I decided to save them all and arrange for them to be sent to a safe place. In the future, I will send them to our base city and let them live a normal life again. Good man. I'll give you a like. Hearing Amakusa Ichiro's words, Gohan immediately gave him a thumbs up in admiration, and at the same time took the initiative to ask, Is there anything we can help with? Just say it, we are all human compatriots, as long as we can help, we will definitely help you. Thank you. Thank you both. Amakusa Ichiro cupped his fists and bowed to Gohan and Song Yifei, then continued, Actually, I'm not alone. There are 3 of my companions waiting for me outside. At the same time, they are also responsible for protecting the humans who have been rescued. I have found a gap in this world, and through this gap, we can send the humans here out. However, the position of the gap is very steep, and ordinary people can't get through at all. Only with the help of the sword mistress can they reach there. So I have been working with some of the smart natives here. He has gathered a group of people outside and has them hide near the gap, and I will escort them through the gap overnight. Originally, I was going to meet with the human here, but I don't know how the boss lady sent you here. Amakusa Ichiro asked curiously, looking at Gohan and Song Yifei. We don't know why either. I just threw a fortune pill to the boss lady, and she brought us here. Gohan said, also puzzled. That's right. Amakusa Ichiro slapped his thigh and said, because the fortune pill is the only food here, the natives will only carefully pay a small amount of fortune pill as a accommodation fee. So the secret signal that the boss lady and I agreed on was to trade a whole fortune pill. In the end, we sent you here. What a coincidence. Chapter 1527. Not long after Gohan and the others entered the room, the indigenous man who came to meet them was also sent in by the landlady. Then, Gohan was stared at by the landlady very vigilantly for a few minutes. It was not until Amakusa Ichiro came out to explain that she let down her guard against Gohan. In the following time, Amakusa Ichiro, Gohan, and the indigenous man discussed and decided that after 7 hours, they would take the indigenous people here and escape from this strange space. After the discussion, Amakusa Ichiro left directly with the indigenous man. He only asked Gohan to meet them at the designated place after a few hours. Gohan, do you think this guy is telling the truth? After parting with Amakusa Ichiro, Song Yifei asked curiously. Half of it is true, and the other half is false, Gohan said with a look of understanding. Most of the things about this place are true, but the thing about Wuzhang Shifeng is false. If I'm right, this guy is actually Wuzhang Shifeng's subordinate. If we really go out with him, I'm afraid we'll be ambushed by Wuzhang Shifeng. I don't know what this Wuzhang Shifeng is thinking and doing. Then, are we still going out with him? Aren't you afraid of being ambushed by Wuzhang Shifeng? Song Yifei laughed. What a joke. If we really go out, then Wuzhang Shifeng will be afraid. Gohan smiled. But I really don't want to fight with this former senior. After all, 20 years ago, I almost became his disciple. I still need to give him some respect. Then what are we going to do now? Song Yifei looked at his personal terminal. There are still 7 hours left. Don't we find something to do? Then let's figure out the background of this place first. We've been here for a long time, and we still don't know what's going on with these monsters. Gohan laughed. When Gohan and Lin Sanjiu were about to capture a few demons to interrogate them, they suddenly heard a series of urgent bells ringing in the city. After the bell rang, the monsters that were wandering on the streets began to run towards the center of the city. Even the monsters outside the city began to run into the city, ignoring the humans who were working hard outside. In the center of the city was the only building that could be called grand in the entire city. All the monsters entered the building one after another. It seems that something big must have happened in this strange space. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gathered all the demons. We must find a way to go in and take a look. Gohan and Song Yifei, who were standing outside the building, looked coldly at the monsters that kept pouring into the building. There were a total of 4 entrances to the building, and each entrance was guarded by 8 demon soldiers with sharp blades. Except for the monsters, almost all the humans avoided the building and did not dare to approach it. Obviously, the building did not allow humans to enter, and most of the demon soldiers were there to stop humans. In this way, it was a little difficult. Gohan and Song Yifei definitely could not force their way in. It was not that Gohan could not defeat these demon soldiers. Even if there were 800,000 demon soldiers in front of Gohan, Gohan would not even blink. However, it was a little troublesome to figure out what was going on, so they still had to find a way to sneak in. But for a while, Gohan could not think of an effective way to sneak in. After all, the difference in appearance between humans and monsters was still too obvious. Without enough props on hand, it was also unrealistic to want to disguise as a monster. Are you at your wits' end? Seeing that Gohan did not move for a while, Song Yifei suddenly squinted his eyes and started laughing. What good idea do you have? Even if Song Yifei did not say anything, Gohan could guess that he must have an idea. Haha, finally, it's time for you to beg me. Song Yifei laughed happily, then took out a sword from his dimensional pocket and gave it to Gohan. Gohan's eyes instantly lit up. Elephant Sword, your famous sword-level swordmistress is actually the Elephant Sword. There was a reason why Gohan was so surprised. The Elephant Sword, like its name, had the ability to change everything in the world. It could change people into anything that you saw, and the change was extremely realistic. Even if the person was next to you, you would not be able to see any difference in the details. It could even simulate the characteristics of different abilities such as dimensional power and monster power. It was definitely the strongest sword mistress for sneaking into battle. In terms of transformation, even an Emperor Sword-level swordmistress could not reach the level of the Elephant Sword. However, in terms of combat power, the Elephant Sword was very pitiful. It only had the combat power of the lowest famous sword-level swordmistress. Hence, in previous battles, Song Yifei had never taken out the Elephant Sword. After all, it was an artificial swordmistress, so Song Yifei did not need to care about its emotions. Hence, Gohan did not know that Song Yifei's famous sword-level swordmistress was actually the Elephant Sword. Otherwise, Gohan would not have to worry about how to sneak in. Very soon, with the power of the Elephant Sword, Gohan and Song Yifei turned into two bull demons with horns. Because bull demons were the most common in the entire city, even if there were two more of them, the guards at the entrance would not be suspicious. The power of the Elephant Sword was indeed extraordinary. When Gohan and Song Yifei, who had turned into two bull demons, walked into the building in the middle of the city, the guards at the entrance did not notice anything wrong and let Gohan and Song Yifei walk in. Gohan and Song Yifei followed the crowd and passed through a few corridors. Finally, they gathered in a large open space. This was obviously a gathering place for the monsters. Apart from the large open space, there was also a high platform. Gohan could see that there were some armed demon soldiers guarding there. There was also a row of tables and chairs. This high platform was obviously prepared for the leaders. Looks like the monsters here are going to have a meeting. Gohan bit Song Yifei's ear and said, "Let's go a little further. This is not a good position." As they had entered the building relatively late, Gohan was at a position furthest from the high platform. Hence, Gohan pulled Song Yifei's hand and charged through the crowd. They forced their way from the back to the front. Many monsters glared at Gohan, but under the threat of Gohan's sharp horns, most of them chose to keep the peace. Charging around was part of the temperament of monsters, and it was even more so for bull demons. Therefore, although Gohan and Song Yifei's behavior was overbearing, other monsters did not find it strange. Instead, they felt that it was a normal reaction. When Gohan squeezed to the front, the bell rang again. This time, it was obviously the bell for the end of the gathering and the beginning of the meeting. Two monsters dressed in gorgeous clothes with extraordinary auras and strength walked out from behind the high platform and sat on the tables and chairs. These two big monsters were actually women, and Gohan actually knew them. One of them was dressed in green and looked to be in her 60s or 70s. She looked no different from an ordinary old person, but one could vaguely see some characteristics of a monkey. This woman was called Incongruence Divine Mother. In the memory of the sage's relic, Incongruence Divine Mother was also an expert in the Jie sect. Later, when she saw that the myriad immortal array of the Jie sect was broken, she fled in a hurry. Moreover, she fled so quickly that Saint Juanti, who wanted to capture her as a mount, could not find her. In the end, nothing happened. The other woman looked to be in her 20s or 30s. She wore a feather dress that was as white as the clouds, and her mature temperament could not be concealed. Not only did Gohan see this woman in the memory of the sage's relic, but he also saw her in the illusion of the 9 prefectures' deer-seeking realm. This woman was the eldest sister of the 3 sky fairies, Lady Yunxiao. However, according to the records in the sage's relic, Lady Yunxiao should have been suppressed by Taishang Laojun. However, it was unknown how she ended up here. Initially, Gohan thought that there was no high-end combat power in this alternate space. However, after seeing Incongruent's Divine Mother and Lady Yunxiao, Gohan knew that he was wrong. Incongruent's Divine Mother and Lady Yunxiao were both at the desolate level Yuan Ko level. They belonged to the top Yuan Ko. Of course, these two were not Yuan Ko. They were monsters that were born and raised in this world. Patriarch Incongruence, Patriarch Yunxiao. May I know which patriarch has rung the roving jade bell and summoned us here? When the 2 big shots appeared, some of the demons below the stage impatiently asked. Naturally, we have something important to summon you here. Incongruent's Divine Mother said in a deep voice, the reason why we gathered everyone here today is because the supreme holy item that has been missing for many years, the Khanate Cardinal Treasure, has finally returned to the Jie sect today. What? The Khanate Cardinal Treasure of the Jie sect has returned. All the monsters shouted in shock when they heard the news. This news obviously shocked every monster. Through this conversation, Gohan could finally confirm one thing. All the monsters here were from the Jie sect back then. Incongruent's Divine Mother and Lady Yunxiao were also fish that escaped the net after the Great God Investiture War. That's very interesting. The remaining evils of the Jie sect are actually hiding here. As the leader of these evils, will the Grandmaster of Heaven let this place go? He will definitely gather all these loyal disciples back, and we will definitely be able to find clues about sect leader Tong Tian here. Gohan said in his heart. Chapter 1528. Patriarchs, we've been isolated from the outside world for hundreds of thousands of years. Apart from a group of humans that broke in 1,000 years ago, nothing else has come in. How did the primordial cardinal treasure of our Jie school come back? Which primordial cardinal treasure of our Jie school came back? Patriarchs, please tell us. One of the monsters below the stage said loudly. This primordial cardinal treasure was brought back by 2 human slaves. This primordial cardinal treasure is the supreme patriarch of our Jie school, the supreme sage in the world. It's also our master, the sect leader of Tongtian's sword, the Qingping sword. After Divine Mother Wudong finished speaking, all the monsters were shocked again. It's the Qingping sword. Oh my god, isn't that the legendary primordial cardinal treasure? I've only heard of the Qingping sword's name. I never imagined that the Qingping sword would really come back. Dad, what is this Qingping sword? Why haven't I heard of it before? There was a heated discussion below the stage. Many monsters knelt down excitedly and kowtowed to the sky when they heard the name of the Qingping sword. Most of the monsters were at a loss when they heard the name. It was obvious that the name of the Qingping sword had never appeared in their mind. To them, it was something very distant. Alright, I know everyone has a lot of questions, but we'll talk about them after we meet the Qingping sword. Come on, bring the honorable and supreme sect leader of Tongtian's sacred item, the Qingping sword. Let us admire it. After Divine Mother Wudong finished speaking, she and Lady Yunxiao stood up from their chairs at the same time and knelt down towards the backstage. Seeing that Divine Mother Wudong and Lady Yunxiao had knelt down, the other monsters did not dare to act rashly no matter how powerful they were. They all knelt down along with the 2 patriarchs. In an instant all the monsters present knelt down. Only a dozen monsters carrying a sedan slowly walked out from the backstage. On this luxuriously decorated sedan sat a chubby and cute little girl who was stuffing food into her mouth. What the hell is this? F*CK. Isn't this the primordial cardinal treasure, the Qingping sword? Why is it a little girl now? That's right. She's clearly a little girl. How is that the Qingping sword? When the demons saw that the last primordial cardinal treasure was actually a little girl, they no longer cared about their respect. They jumped up from the ground and pointed at the little girl and shouted, "How dare you be so rude to Lord Qingping's sword?" Saint Mother Wudong, who was kneeling on the platform, was enraged. A bolt of lightning struck down from her body. The first demon who stood up and pointed at the Qingping sword was instantly turned into a pile of charcoal by Divine Mother Wudong's lightning. As for the other demons who stood up, their legs trembled in fear and they knelt down again, not daring to stand up again. F***ck. One day I actually have to kneel down in front of this adorable Qingping. Just who is the sword bearer and who is the master? Seeing Qingping sitting on the sedan, Gohan said with a bitter smile. He might not be the first sword bearer to kneel to his sword lady, but to Gohan it was definitely the first time in his life. Gohan, I see you. Why are you kneeling? Are you going to propose to Qingping? At the same time, Qingping, who was sitting on the sedan, found Gohan, who had turned into a demon through the connection between the sword lady and the sword bearer. He immediately asked Gohan curiously through the sword mark, "But what's with this proposal? Does this adorable thing think that kneeling means asking for a proposal? Let's talk about it later. Qingping, let me ask you. What happened to you? Why are you here? How did they treat you as a primordial treasure?" Gohan asked Qingping, and Qingping told Gohan about his experience in detail. It turned out that Qingping and the two little girls had a lot of fun, so the two little girls opened up to Qingping and let down their guard. So, the two little girls brought Qingping to the rocky beach and told Qingping that they escaped from there. So, Qingping touched one of the stones, and it opened the door to a different space. Qingping and the two little girls were sucked back into the different space. When the two little girls saw that they had returned to their familiar environment, they happily ran back with Qingping. On the way, they encountered demons. Of course, these demons would not be polite to Qingping. One of them even wanted to whip Qingping. Qingping was not Gohan. She knew that she had to endure temporarily. She had a bad temper, so she slashed back with her sword and killed the demon. The killing caused a huge commotion and attracted all the monsters in the area. In the end, the great elder, Lady Yunxiao, who was strolling around the area, was also attracted to her. There was probably no one in the world who was more familiar with the Qingping sword than Lady Yunxiao. So, when the Qingping sword attacked, Lady Yunxiao recognized the familiar sword aura and immediately stopped the other demons. In the beginning, Lady Yunxiao wanted to speak nicely to the Qingping sword. However, the Qingping sword did not recognize Lady Yunxiao and started fighting with her. Without Gohan by his side, the Qingping sword was no match for Yuan Ko's Lady Yunxiao. It was captured by Lady Yunxiao in just a few moves. Lady Yunxiao did not dare to continue attacking the Qingping sword. Instead, she called Goddess Wudong over. The two of them studied the Qingping sword for a long time. After confirming that Qingping was the Qingping sword, she immediately became extremely respectful to the Qingping sword. She even took out many things to entertain Qingping. She treated Qingping as if he was her ancestor. Of course, Lady Yunxiao and Goddess Wudong also asked Qingping's sword many questions. However, Qingping's sword, who usually looked cute but was actually very cunning, did not know anything. He only cared about eating and enjoying his life. He did not answer any of their questions. Helplessly, Lady Yunxiao and Goddess Wudong decided to announce the Qingping sword's identity to the others. Then, they would think of a way to communicate with the Qingping sword. That was how the story happened. Gohan? What should I do now? Do you want the two of us to kill all these annoying fellows together? Poor Qing said as he looked at the demons below the stage. He did not seem to realize that these demons were his disciples and grand disciples. Don't talk. Just sit there and do what you need to do. Eat what you need to eat. Listen to my orders. Gohan immediately instructed Qingpin. Gohan was very interested to know what would happen next. Oh! Hearing Gohan's words, the poor man immediately felt relieved and began to eat the food in front of him without a care in the world. Gohan took a look and realized that the food in Qingpin's hand was a fried golden longevity fruit. Our Qingpin's appetite was indeed good. As long as it was meat, he could eat it. Translator. Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. Although the situation was suppressed by Goddess Wudong's decisive killing, it did not stop the demons from letting their imaginations run wild. Goddess Yunxiao said in an extremely cold voice, "You cats and dogs can transform into humans. Why can't swords transform into humans? Lady Qingping's sword is a connate cardinal treasure. Her foundation surpasses all of us, and her spirituality surpasses all of us. It's only natural that she can transform into a human. You don't have to be surprised." Lady Yun Zhao's explanation instantly made the demons feel enlightened. That's right, if this cow could become a demon, then it was normal for a sword to become a demon. Lord Qingping's sword, could you please transform into your true form and let your disciples and grand-disciples have a look so that they can be at ease? At the same time, Goddess Wudong knelt in front of the Qingping sword and said. The Qingping sword hesitated for a moment before nodding. Its body changed in the air and returned to the appearance of the Qingping sword. It really is Lord Qingping's sword. Seeing Qingping's sword form, Goddess Wudong and Lady Yun Xiao said excitedly. Some of the demons below the stage were even more excited. They shouted the names of the Qingping sword and the Grandmaster of Heaven. They were so excited that they almost fainted. Goddess Wudong and Lady Yun Xiao had never seen Qingping's true form before. They only realized that she was the Qingping sword after sensing Qingping's sword aura. Therefore, this was also their first time seeing the true form of the Qingping sword. Before this, no matter how much the incongruous Divine Mother and Lady Yun Xiao requested, the poor sword refused to transform into a sword. Who would have thought that it would change its voice so decisively this time? This made the incongruous Divine Mother and Lady Yun Xiao overjoyed. It seemed like the Qingping sword still cared about the disciples and grand-disciples of the Jia order. Otherwise, she would not have transformed into her true form when she saw so many disciples and grand-disciples kneeling down. Of course, these two important figures didn't know that the reason Qingping's sword had transformed so decisively wasn't because he cared about his disciples and grand-disciples. Instead, it was because Qingping had just communicated with Guhan and obtained Guhan's permission to transform. Otherwise, even if these disciples and grand-disciples knelt until dawn, they wouldn't be able to make Qingping's sword transform. What's going on here? Why are all of you here? Didn't I hear that you abandoned your master and ran away? Sister Yun Xiao, you were suppressed under the Qilin Cliff by old Lord Taishang and will never be able to rise again? Why are all of you here? The Qingping sword suddenly asked in an extremely dignified voice. Of course, it was not Qingping's sword who said it. Instead, it was Gohan who said it through Qingping's sword. Elder Qingping, please listen to our explanation. When Goddess Wudong and Lady Yun Xiao saw that the Qingping sword finally spoke, they immediately poured out their stories excitedly like beans pouring out of a bamboo tube. Chapter 1529. After the battle of the 10,000 immortal array, Master and I were outnumbered. We were besieged by the 4 shameless old thieves, and Goddess Nuwa was also an accomplice. In the end, our Jia school suffered a great defeat. Tens of thousands of senior and junior brothers, as well as their disciples and grand-disciples, were either killed or listed on the investiture of the gods. The most miserable ones were those who were captured by the Western sect. They actually used them as mounts and they even castrated those poor senior and junior brothers. That's especially so for the 12 golden immortals of Chan school. Those bastards usually address us as brothers, senior brothers, and junior brothers. We didn't blame them for fighting in the myriad immortals formation. Even if we died in their hands, it was our fate. But they shouldn't have used our fellow disciples as mounts. Not only that, but they also broke the future of our fellow disciples. I hate them so much. I can't wait to kill all of them to avenge my master and my fellow disciples. But I knew that with my ability, I couldn't even deal with one of them. It was absolutely impossible to kill all of them. And at that critical moment, Master suddenly sent me a voice transmission, telling me to immediately return to Green Turing Palace and lead the remaining disciples and grand disciples in Green Turing Palace to escape, so as to prevent them from being slaughtered by those beasts. So I left the myriad immortals formation before the battle ended completely and rushed back to the Azure Palace before those beasts. However, my true form is that of a monkey. I can't compare to those immortal cranes, Koan-Purings, and true dragons. By the time I was almost done cleaning up the Green Turing Palace, the people pursuing us had already arrived. All I could do was temporarily activate the Green Turing Palace's Dharma Protection Array. However, we were also trapped in Green Turing Palace. Although the Dharma Protection formation of the Azure Palace is very strong and only a sage like Master can control it completely, I can only control less than 10% of its power. But there are too many people coming to attack. The Dharma Protection formation is about to be broken and the other sages are likely to attack the Azure Palace. If that happens, we will be completely doomed. In my anxiety, I found that Master had left a brocade pouch in the back hall. He said that he had refined the fragment of the treasure-snatching rock into an alternate space that could be opened freely. As long as one entered the alternate space and sealed the door, even a sage would not be able to enter. So, I immediately brought everyone into this alternate dimension and hid until now. The story of the goddess of incongruence was over. The truth was as Gohan had guessed. These people were the remnants of Jie school after the God Conferment War. Under the arrangement of the goddess of incongruence, they hid in this alternate dimension. Damn it! Damn it! Chan school, Ren school, and those bastards from the Western sect, they all deserve to die. They all have to die. Qing Ping suddenly roared. Her face became extremely furious, like a ferocious tiger that wanted to eat someone. After a long time, her emotions gradually calmed down. So that's how it is. Qing Pin put down the longevity fruit in his hand and looked at Yun Xiao. What about you, Yun Xiao? How did you get in? Did you also come in with the goddess of incongruence? I'm not. I'm ashamed to say it, but even now, I still haven't figured out how I got in. Yun Xiao smiled bitterly and began to narrate her experience. Back then, in the Nine Bends Yellow River Formation, the Grand Supreme Elder and the Heavenly Lord of Primordial Beginning bullied the weak. Their disciples could not deal with us, so in the end, they took action themselves. They took away our Primordial Chaos Golden Chalice, swallowed our Golden Flood Dragon Scissors, and even killed my poor sisters, Qiong Xiao and Bai Xiao. I was the only one who was suppressed by the Grand Supreme Elder Lord under the Qilin Cliff for an unknown number of years. I've heard of this before. However, your younger sisters, Qiong Xiao and Bai Xiao, did not die. They only ran to the heavenly courts to become two fairies. However, only you did not go on the god roll with your two sisters. Instead, you were suppressed under the Qilin Cliff and never appeared again. Qing Ping said with a hint of doubt in her eyes. However, this question was not asked by Gohan through Qing Pin, but by Qing Ping herself. Moreover, the Qilin Cliff is not the Qilin Cliff in the mortal world. It is the Qilin Cliff in the universe map, the connate cardinal treasure of Taishang Laojun. It's said that the scroll of the universe is a dimensional world second only to the origin world, and the entire world has been refined by Taishang Laojun. Unless Taishang Laojun dies, no one can escape from the scroll of the universe. How did you get out? This is also what I'm curious about. Yun Xiao, I've already said before that I still don't know how I escaped. Yun Shao, I was trapped under the Qilin cliff for at least tens of thousands of years. Just when Yun Shao was about to completely forget about the past, the universe map suddenly began to shake violently, and the entire world began to collapse. The Qilin cliff that suppressed me was the first to collapse, and I escaped from the Qilin cliff. However, although I left the suppression of the Qilin cliff, I still could not escape from the universe map. Just as the world in the universe map was about to collapse, and I was about to perish with the universe map, a golden light suddenly shot out from the outside and shone on me. Suddenly, a golden light shot out from the outside and shone on my body, pulling me out of the map of heaven and earth. When I opened my eyes again, I was outside the ruins of the Bio Palace. I wandered around the ruins in a daze for a few days, and suddenly discovered the secret hidden in the treasure-snatching rock. It just so happened that I had a talisman in my body given by my master, so I directly entered this strange space and met senior sister Wudong again. Yun Shao finished the story with a puzzled face. You're saying that you didn't escape by yourself, but someone rescued you from the map of the world? Qing Ping Sword frowned and said, That's not right. I know that the universe map and I are both connate cardinal treasures. Once it recognizes you as its master, unless the master dies, even a sage can't rescue you from the universe map. What? The Grand Supreme Elder is dead. Why did you only tell me now? Qingping Sword's expression suddenly changed, and she suddenly muttered to herself in a strange manner. Then, the murderous aura on her body disappeared in an instant, and she returned to her previous harmless and adorable appearance. I know. The poor started to work hard to eat the longevity fruit again. As he ate, he told everyone a shocking piece of news. The Grand Supreme Old Lord is already dead. The heaven and earth map has lost its master, so it is only natural for it to destroy itself. By the way, when were you released? How long have you been here? I'm not too sure about the specifics. It's been about 1,000 years. Yun Shao looked at the Qingping Sword curiously. She did not know why the other party's emotions had changed so much in such a short period of time, but she still told him everything in detail. At that time, the entire world was in chaos. A group of human refugees gathered around me, and they were being chased by some people I had never seen before. At that time, I just so happened to find a way to enter this alternate dimension, and just so happened to open the door to this alternate dimension. Those refugees also followed me in. Based on this, it seems that it has indeed been 1,000 years. It turned out that the human refugees in this dimension had all been let in by Yun Shao. Then I understand, Qingpin said thoughtfully, while Yun Shao and Wu Dang were extremely curious. How could this Qingping figure out something that they had not been able to figure out in 1,000 years just by listening to a few words? Could it be that Lord Qingping knew something that no one knew about? Thinking of this, Yun Shao and Wu Dang immediately turned their fervent gazes towards Qing Ping. Ancestor Qing Ping, what exactly do you understand? What exactly is going on? Yun Shao could not help but ask. Humph, of course, it's because our master is mighty. He fought against 6 people alone outside. Not only did he kill the 5 sages who humiliated us in the past, but he also killed the mean, ungrateful, biased old bastard, Hong Jun, who pretended to be fair and generous. Qingpin hesitated for a while, and then announced loudly and excitedly. What he said scared the hell out of Saint Incongruence and Lady Yun Shao. What the hell was that? How could Hong Jun ancestor, who was extremely powerful and suppressed the whole world in their impression, be killed by their master? Wasn't this a little too inconceivable? Ahem. I knew you wouldn't believe it. This is what happened. Qingpin coughed and told the 2 disciples of the tribe of Jie what happened after the God Investiture War. According to the poor man, after sect master Tong Tian was defeated, Hong Jun ancestor was extremely abominable. He captured sect master Tong Tian indiscriminately and locked him up in the Purple Cloud Palace. He wanted to punish Sect Master Tongtian to stay in the Purple Cloud Palace until the end of the world. Sect Master Tongtian had already accepted his fate. However, when he accidentally heard about his disciple's tragic experience, he instantly became angry and said that he wanted to go down and save his disciple. Hongjun Ancestor naturally did not agree. As a result, Sect Master Tongtian was so angry that he fought with Hongjun Ancestor. In the beginning, Sect Master Tongtian was definitely unable to defeat Hongjun Ancestor. Seeing that Sect Master Tongtian was about to die in Hongjun Ancestor's hands, Sect Master Tongtian suddenly comprehended some earth-shattering power. He risked his life and killed Hongjun Ancestor. When the other 5 sages found out, they were, of course, terrified. Therefore, they took the 4 fairy killing swords and prepared to kill Sect Master Tongtian when he was seriously injured to completely calm down the chaos. However, Sect Master Tongtian, who had an epiphany, was extremely powerful. Even though he was seriously injured, the 5 sages could only barely suppress Sect Master Tongtian. In the end, they died together with Sect Master Tongtian. This war also caused the whole main world and all the dimensional worlds to become chaotic. All kinds of monsters in the dimensional worlds appeared in the main world. That was what Yun Xiao saw after she escaped. Chapter 1530. In that case, the heaven and earth map collapsed because Master killed Taishang Laojun. After listening to Qing Pin's words, Lady Yunxiao said excitedly. She finally found the answer to the question that she could not find for 1,000 years. However, Lady Yunxiao still had another question. What was the yellow light that saved her from the heaven and earth map? It's Master. It's Master who saved you. Qingping's sword immediately patted his chest and said, after Taishang Laojun died, Master still had a breath left. He probably saw that you were trapped in the heaven and earth map, so he used the last bit of his strength to save you from the heaven and earth map. After all, Taishang Laojun was already dead at that time. It was a simple matter for Master to save you from an ownerless heaven and earth map. I see. Lady Yunxiao suddenly knelt on the ground and kowtowed a dozen times. Her eyes were filled with tears as she said, Master, I will never forget Master's great kindness. I didn't expect Master to think of saving me even at the brink of death. I will never forget Master's love for me. I will be Master's disciple for the rest of my life. Lady Yunxiao cried as she spoke with sincerity. It could be seen that Lady Yunxiao was really in love with Master Tongtian. When sect leader Tongtian was at his last breath, he still wanted to save his disciple. How could Lady Yunxiao not be touched by such a deep relationship between master and disciple? Master is mighty. Master is so kind. We will never forget it. Seeing this, the incongruous Divine Mother knelt down with Mistress Yun Xiao in excitement and shouted. This also became a shadow. Under the influence of Goddess Yun Xiao and Goddess Wudong, all the monsters below the stage knelt down one after another. Although most of these monsters were born in this alternate space, they did not have any feelings for Tongtian, nor would they care about Tongtian's kindness. Some of them even deeply resented sect leader Tongtian. After all, because of sect leader Tongtian's failure, they were born in this alternate space, and could not escape for the rest of their lives. However, they had no choice but to shout along with the others. Otherwise, they believed that the incongruous Divine Mother and Lady Yun Xiao would not let these ungrateful people off. If these guys knew the truth, I don't know what would happen. Gu Han sighed in his heart when he saw these demons shouting "Long live sect leader Tongtian." The story about sect leader Tongtian that Qing Jiu had just told them was, of course, something that Gu Han had processed. In Gu Han's memory, sect leader Tongtian's Dharma power was usually red and green. Although he could use golden Dharma power, sect leader Tongtian hated golden Dharma power. Unless it was necessary, he would not use golden Dharma power. Therefore, the person who saved Yun Xiao was definitely not sect leader Tongtian. According to Gu Han's conjecture, the truth of the matter should be like this. The one who really rescued Yunxiao from the map of the world, or in other words, released Yunxiao from the map of the world, should be Taishang Laojun. After all, Taishang Laojun's supernatural power was the real golden supernatural power, and Taishang Laojun's map of the world did not completely collapse in that battle. Instead, it was used by Taishang Laojun and the Taiji map to refine the seamless corridor, which was used to seal the remaining spirit of sect leader Tongtian. How could it collapse and be saved by sect leader Tongtian, who was on the verge of doomsday? At that time, the reason why the map of the world began to collapse was that Taishang Laojun wanted to use it to refine the seamless corridor with the Taiji diagram. Therefore, the map of the world itself collapsed. This process was controllable from beginning to end. It was under Taishang Laojun's control. Obviously, the reason why Yunxiao could come out of the map of the world was that Taishang Laojun let her go. He could not bear to see Yunxiao die in the map of the world, so he spared her life and gave her freedom again. However, why did he put Yunxiao back in the Aquamarine Palace? This was worth Gohan's careful consideration. According to Gohan's guess, the greatest possibility was that Taishang Laojun already knew the existence of the dimensional space. However, because he did not want to destroy the last trace of his bloodline, he let the dimensional space exist there and did not interfere with it. As for putting Yunxiao in that position, there was a possibility that Taishang Laojun hoped that Yunxiao could also enter the dimensional space and live with her senior and junior brothers. She would not get involved in the affairs of the outside world and live a stable life. Another possibility was that Taishang Laojun was secretly plotting something, and Yunxiao was a chess piece of Taishang Laojun. She was used by Taishang Laojun to plot against sect master Tongtian. However, this was just Gohan's guess. As for the truth of the matter, only Gohan's cheap master Taishang Laojun knew. Unfortunately, this guy was too mysterious. He had already accepted Gohan as his disciple, but he was still unwilling to tell everything to Gohan. As a result, the truth that Gohan learned from Taishang Laojun was not as much as the truth from the saint's relic. There was no one in the world who was more unlike his master than Taishang Laojun. Gohan, why did you make me tell such a lie? Shouldn't you have asked me to make things worse for the old master? Why are these people more respectful of old master? While Lady Yunxiao, Matriarch Wudong, and the other monsters were crying and shouting, Lady Yunxiao, Old Mother Wudong, and many monsters were crying and shouting. Qingpin, who could not even eat properly because of the crying and shouting, asked Gohan curiously. Are you Qingpin or Qingping now? Gohan did not answer Qingpin's question directly. Instead, he asked such a question. Oh, you know. Qingpin was shocked, and his chubby little face puffed up. Humph, you can hide it from others, but how can you hide it from me? Did Qingping get rid of your control again and occupy your body? Gohan said directly. Yes. Qingpin nodded, puffed up his cheeks and said, I suppressed her for a long time, but I didn't expect her to become very emotional after hearing what happened to those monsters. I was caught off guard and she took control of my body again. But it doesn't matter, I have suppressed her, and she will definitely be more vigilant this time. Well, then I'll answer your question just now. You asked me why I didn't say bad things about sect leader Tongtian, because I know it's useless to say bad things about sect leader Tongtian. Be it Goddess Wudong or Yunxiao, they are the most loyal disciples of sect leader Tongtian. They won't accept sect leader Tongtian's bad words. Instead, they might even doubt your identity. You'd better go along with their emotions and say more good things about sect leader Tongtian. Describe sect leader Tongtian in a way that they like. In this way, they will think that you're the same kind of person and you can get more useful information from them. Most importantly, I have a feeling that sect leader Tongtian will definitely return here. I'm going to set up an ambush for him here, so these monsters must become more loyal to sect leader Tongtian. In this way, sect leader Tong Tian will let down his guard, and I'll be able to prepare a fatal blow to sect leader Tong Tian. Gohan said faintly, but the deep killing intent in his words made Qingpin shudder, and his whole body began to tremble. What's wrong? Seeing that Qingpin's body was a little strange, Gohan squinted his eyes and asked. Nothing, the Qingping in my body heard that you are going to kill the old master, so she became emotional again. But it doesn't matter, I can suppress her. Qingpin said reluctantly. Don't force yourself. If you can't do it, I will return you to my sword. With the suppression of my sword essence, it's impossible for Qingping to escape. Gohan said faintly. No need, I can definitely suppress her. Qingpin's face turned red, and then his body gradually began to calm down. Holy Mother Wudong and Mistress Yun Shao shouted for a long time before their emotions gradually calmed down. Seeing that the two of them had calmed down, the other demons heaved a sigh of relief and gradually calmed down. Holy Mother Wudong and Mistress Yun Shao spoke a few more words to Qingping, confirming her identity even more. They also became more and more respectful towards Qingping. Coincidentally, at this moment, a demon suddenly walked to Holy Mother Wudong's side and whispered into her ears. Holy Mother Wudong's face bloomed with a cold smile, and she said to Qingping, Ancestor Qingping, there's going to be a good show next. I wonder if Ancestor is willing to go with us to watch. What show? Qingping asked curiously. It's like this. Holy Mother Wudong laughed. Those human slaves outside were originally used by us to capture longevity fruit. Occasionally, we would kill some of them to make a sumptuous meal, but they aren't anything valuable. I've never counted the number. If it wasn't for Mistress Yun Shao suddenly telling me that the number of humans outside seemed to be fewer, I wouldn't have realized that the number of humans in this alternate dimension had actually decreased by half. Thus, I sent some invisible demons to mix in with these humans. In the end, I found out that someone had actually opened a path outside and led these humans to escape. The two children who brought you here were originally two of the last batch of humans who escaped. In the end, I don't know how they brought you back, but that's quite strange. Just based on this point, I originally wanted to kill Master, but on account of the merit of bringing you back, I spared their lives. However, it's said that these humans outside are going to steal people again today. I plan to bring some people to ambush them and then follow their path out. Since they stole 100 of our slaves, then we will capture all of those humans as slaves and offer them to Master as sacrifices. Offer them to Master, ha 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 ha. Chapter 1531. Why haven't the two people from Yuzhong arrived as promised? In an extremely secluded cave in the alternate dimension, there were nearly 100 humans curled up on both sides of the cave. In the entire cave, there was only one well-dressed person, and that person was Amakusa Ichiro. However, Amakusa Ichiro was feeling uneasy. According to the agreement, the two people from Yuzhong should have arrived at this cave by now, but why hadn't they appeared yet? Could it be that these two people stood me up? Ichiro Amakusa guessed, but he quickly dismissed the idea. Impossible. Amakusa Ichiro muttered to himself. Those two people entered this place by mistake. Without our guidance, they won't be able to leave this place. In order to escape, they will definitely come here on time. Just as Amakusa Ichiro was feeling troubled, a door suddenly opened in the cave. This door was not the dimensional door that Gohan and Amakusa Ichiro used to enter. Instead, the inner wall of the cave was pulled open, and two human swordsmen walked out from the other side of the door. It seemed that this door was connected to a secret passage inside the mountain. Is everyone here this time? The governor is waiting for us. The two people immediately said as soon as they entered the cave. All the natives here are here. A total of 100 people. Amakusa Ichiro nodded. Very well, let's not waste any more time. Since everyone is here, let's leave now. The other two people in charge of receiving them said hurriedly. At the same time, They began to call for the natives in the cave to evacuate through the secret passage. Brothers, wait, there are still 2 people not here. Amakusa Ichiro said through gritted teeth. What do you mean there are still 2 people? We just counted, there are indeed 100 natives here, no more, no less. Why are there 2 people missing? The 2 newcomers said in confusion. It's like this, I actually met 2 people from Yuzhong here. So, Amakusa Ichiro told the 2 newcomers about his encounter, and the 2 newcomers immediately fell into a state of shock. They didn't expect to be discovered by a second group of people here. This was too much of a coincidence. However, the other party was a human, so there shouldn't be any big problems. Did you really set up a time and place with them and told them to meet here? The 2 new sword-bearers confirmed. I'm sure. How could I forget to tell them these things? Ichiro Amakusa said helplessly. Not good, we might have been exposed. A new sword-wielder's expression changed drastically. Those 2 humans have probably been captured by demons. Those demons are strange and bizarre. I heard from the city lord that those monsters are extremely powerful. They might even have a method to search souls. If the 2 sword-bearers are exposed, I'm afraid our operation will be exposed as well. F***CK. Hearing this person's words, Amakusa Ichiro instantly understood. That's right, these 2 people were most likely captured by the monsters, and there was a high possibility that they would be exposed. Go, everyone, go now, don't stay. Thinking of this, Amakusa Ichiro did not dare to delay any longer. He immediately urged the humans on the ground to enter the secret passage. At this moment, 2 golden balls of light instantly shot into the cave. More than a dozen humans were caught off guard and were directly strangled by these balls of light. More monsters rushed in after the balls of light. We're really exposed. Seeing the monsters swarming in, Amakusa Ichiro understood what was going on. He gritted his teeth and said fiercely, Those 2 people from Yuzhong, why did I tell them where to gather? They are useless. At this time, Amakusa Ichiro regretted his carelessness. At that time, he thought that if he, a sword-bearer, could enter and exit the city of monsters freely, the 2 sword-bearers of famed swords should also be very safe. So, without thinking too much, he told them the truth. However, he did not expect that the 2 people from Yuzhong would be so stupid that they would be caught by these monsters. Thinking of it now, Amakusa Ichiro really regretted it. Amakusa Ichiro had never suspected that the 2 people from Yuzhong would betray them. After all, except for Mingyuan Jiendi, there was almost no example of a sword-bearer betraying them. The survival of the race forced everyone to unite. Therefore, Amakusa Ichiro believed that the 2 people from Yuzhong would not betray them on their own. The biggest possibility was that they had been caught by the monsters. Brothers, what should we do now? Amakusa Ichiro looked at the monsters rushing out of the cave entrance, then looked at the 50 to 60 indigenous people who had not entered the secret passage, and asked the other 2 sword-bearers anxiously. What else can we do? These are our compatriots of the Yamato people. We must never abandon them. The leading sword-bearer gritted his teeth and said, We'll stay here and fight desperately until all the Yamato people escape. Don't worry, I think these monsters are at most at the Dragon Realm. We can hold them off. The other 2 nodded at the words of the leading sword-bearer. The 3 of them released their sword maidens and fought with the monsters near the entrance of the cave. They tried their best to buy time so that the remaining indigenous people could escape through the secret passage. I wonder which sect these humans are from. All of them have immortal swords with sword spirit. They can even transform immortal swords into human forms. This sect is really powerful. Seeing the 3 sword-bearers transform their swords into sword maidens, Incongruence Divine Mother and Cloudy Sky were shocked. They could not help but be shocked by the 3 humans' strength. In the primeval age, only those perfected immortals with extremely profound cultivation could transform the celestial sword into a human form and fight with the spirituality in the celestial sword. Be it cultivation or the celestial sword, they were 1 in a million. In the entire Jie school, there were less than 20 people who could do this. All of them were the backbone of the Jie school. Even Goddess Wudong and Lady Yun Xiao might not be a match for these 20 people. Therefore, when they saw the 3 humans transform into human forms, the 2 sword-bearers were really afraid. Only God knew how powerful the humans outside were. If there were 20 more of them, the entire alternate dimension would be completely destroyed. Chapter 1532. No, these 3 sword immortals are strange. Their human forms are too weak. Also, why didn't they join the battle themselves? Instead, they hid behind their immortal swords? At first, the incongruous Divine Mother and Lady Yun Xiao were shocked by the 3 sword-wielding men. However, after observing them closely, the 2 of them realized that something was wrong. If they were really sword immortals from the primeval era, the sword's human form was just an interesting supplementary attack. The sword immortals' real combat power was actually the sword immortals themselves. They could only unleash their true combat power when they held the sword in their hands or fought with the sword. However, the 3 humans in front of them were hiding at the back. They did not look like they had powerful combat power. Instead, they looked like they needed to rely on the sword's human form for protection. Senior Sister Wudong, it seems like the outside world has changed a lot. Something must have happened that we don't know about. These 3 people are definitely not real sword immortals. Lady Yunxiao frowned and said, "Also, we can't drag this on any longer. Most of the natives have already escaped. If we continue fighting like this, I'm afraid they'll all run away." "Then what do you want?" Goddess Wudong squinted her eyes and asked. "Let the 4 wind immortals fight." Lady Yunxiao answered. "Let the 4 of them fight? Aren't you overestimating these 3? Goddess Wudong said in disdain. "It's fine. Let's end this quickly." Lady Yunxiao smiled. "Okay." Divine Mother Wudong nodded. She turned around and gave a few orders with a deep voice. Then, 4 ugly monsters with different heads strode out from the group behind her and rushed into the cave. These 4 monsters had a tiger head, a lion head, a leopard head, and a white wolf head respectively. Because they had mastered different wind spells, they gathered together and were called the 4 Wind Immortals. The tiger head was the East Wind Immortal, the lion head was the North Wind Immortal, the leopard head was the South Wind Immortal, and the white wolf head was the North Wind Immortal. These 4 people were all 3rd-generation disciples of the tribe of Severity. During the War of Investiture of Gods, they had already gained some fame in the tribe of Severity. Later on, they followed sect leader Tongtian to participate in the innumerable immortal array battle and even escaped with sect leader Tongtian. They were one of the last 300 disciples of sect leader Tongtian. When Ancestor Hong Jun appeared to block Tongtian, the 4 of them were quick-witted and escaped to the Aquamarine Palace in advance to report the news. Finally, they hid in this alternate dimension with Divine Mother Wudong. From this, it could be seen that these 4 monsters were already experts before the myriad immortal array. Now that hundreds of thousands of years had passed, their abilities had naturally become even more powerful. To be more specific, these 4 monsters were probably at the level of the meteor realm Yuan Ko. Therefore, when the 4 demons attacked, the 3 sword-bearers who were initially evenly matched with the demons in front of them could not hold on any longer. The 4 demons merely blew a mouthful of immortal chi, and the 3 sword ladies were on the verge of collapse. They couldn't even brandish their swords. As for the 3 sword-bearers, they were instantly blown away and slammed heavily into the mountain wall. If it weren't for the protection of their close-fitting shields, they would have been smashed into a pile of minced meat. They are indeed very fragile. They are not sword immortals at all. Divine Mother Wudong said resentfully when she saw this scene. She was actually fooled by these 3 little guys. It was really embarrassing. "Big brother, I'm afraid the 3 of us are going to die here," Ichiro Amakusa said to the other 2 with a wry smile. At first, when they found that they were evenly matched with the demons, they were relieved, thinking that they still had a great chance of escaping this time. However, it wasn't until the four immortals of wind attacked at the same time that they were directly blown away that they realized that the four enemies were actually all Meteor Realm Yuan Ko, which was equivalent to the human spirit sword realm sword bearers. Only then did they realize that the real powerhouses of the enemy had not even made a move. Once they made a move, they were destined to die. The three sword-bearers knew very well that it was impossible for them to defeat four Meteor Realm Yuan Ko with just one famed sword-level sword-bearer and two treasure sword-level sword-bearers. Therefore, they were left with only death. Big brother, you are a famed sword-level sword-bearer. You are more important to our Yamato city. Escape first, we will buy you some time. Ichiro Amakusa struggled to stand up from the ground. As he spat out a mouthful of blood, he said to the famed sword-level sword-bearer, How can I abandon you all? The famed sword-level sword-bearer immediately refused. Big brother, now is not the time for pleasantries. If no one is there to open the door for these natives, they will all die. Let us buy you some last bit of time. Amakusa Ichiro suddenly pushed the body of the famed sword-rank swordsman into the secret passage, then kicked the last few natives who were left outside into the passage as well. Then, he and the other sword-rank swordsmen led the last two sword maidens to block the entrance of the secret passage. It was obvious that they were using their own lives to buy time. Idiot. So what if you can buy me some time? I don't need a single breath to catch up to those humans. The incongruous Divine Mother sneered, and then gave the four immortals of wind a look, signaling them to end the battle quickly. Yes. The four immortals of wind immediately understood and took out their respective magic treasures from their waist. They poured all their demonic power into the treasures and waved them. Four extremely violent gusts of wind rushed towards Ichiro Amakusa and the Sacred Mother of Wind. Goodbye, this damned world. Seeing the four gusts of wind, Ichiro Amakusa and the Sacred Mother of Wind knew that it was impossible for them to escape. They were about to die in this alternate dimension together with their sword ladies and be torn to pieces by the four gusts of wind. So, the two of them closed their eyes and prepared for the moment of their death. It's too early to wait for death. After waiting for a while, the two of them realized that they didn't seem to have died. Then, a familiar voice sounded in their ears. They immediately raised their heads and saw a man and a woman standing in front of them with their sword mistresses. The two of you are finally here. Ichiro Amakusa cried tears of joy when he saw the two of them. I'm sorry, we were delayed by some matters and came a little late. Gohan, who had slightly disguised himself, said cheerfully. His cheerful voice instantly calmed Ichiro Amakusa and the Sacred Mother of Wind. Although the two of them did not know Gohan at all, it was as if everything would be fine as long as Gohan was here. Well, now is not the time for us to catch up. You two escape through the secret passage first. We will cover for you, Song Yifei said quickly. At the same time, he was struggling to resist the attack of the four immortals of wind. No, you are here to save us. How can we let you fight here? Hurry up and leave, we will cover for you. Ichiro Amakusa said. What's with all this nonsense? Gohan was getting impatient. He kicked the two of them on their butts and sent them back into the secret passage. At the same time, he began to slowly retreat into the secret passage. Damn it! Just when Gohan and Song Yifei were about to leave, a cold snort suddenly sounded in the cave. Then, two silver-white lights instantly pierced the chest of Gohan and Song Yifei. Block it! Gohan and Song Yifei used all their strength to block it. Both of them were hit and spat out blood at the same time. However, they still managed to catch the silver-white light. Then, they took advantage of this moment to sneak into the secret passage. What? These two humans actually caught my heavenly light. Lady Yunxiao looked at her own hands and said in disbelief. Yunxiao, now is not the time to be in a daze. Let's go. Incongruence Divine Mother scolded and followed Lady Yunxiao into the secret passage. Chapter 1533. When the desolate level Yuan Ko chased after someone, his power was naturally extraordinary. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that if the Incongruence Divine Mother and Lady Yun Shao were to give their all, the entire hill would be flattened by them in less than a second. The human hiding in the secret passage would naturally die. However, Goddess Wudong and Queen Yun Shao did not dare to do that. The reason was simple. This was an alternate space, one that was pieced together by various pieces. There was a huge limitation to such an alternate space, which was that the space itself was extremely unstable. If there was an overly intense battle in the space, such as flattening a hill, the alternate space itself would be greatly damaged. Hence, the alternate space might be destroyed as well. With Goddess Wudong and Queen Yun Zhao's abilities, it would be easy for them to escape if the alternate space was destroyed. However, the problem was that the disciples of the Jie school would not be able to escape from the alternate space. They would most likely be destroyed along with the alternate space. This was something that Goddess Wudong and Queen Yun Shao definitely did not want to see and could not accept. Hence, after thinking for a while, they finally decided to chase after the enemies with their physical bodies. They would only use a small area of power to capture the humans alive or kill them directly. Yifei, escape with them. I'll stay here and block these two women. Gohan said to Song Yifei when he saw Queen Yun Shao and Goddess Wudong chasing after them. On the surface, he was telling Song Yifei that he hoped that Song Yifei could protect the others, but in reality, Gohan was afraid that the battle between him and the two experts would affect Song Yifei. With Song Yifei's current abilities, he might be seriously injured in the battle. Hence, Gohan could only send Song Yifei away in advance, leaving him to block the Incongruence Divine Mother and Lady Yun Shao alone. Human, just give up. I swear in the name of the Jie school that as long as you cooperate with us, I can spare your life. Queen Yun Shao said indifferently when she saw Gohan blocking in front of her. What's with all the nonsense? Let's do it. Gohan took out the Qidian sword in his hand. Initially, it would have been better to use the 4 fairy-slaying swords and the Xianyuan sword. However, the problem was that he believed that Mistress Yun Shao and the Incongruence Divine Mother would recognize these 5 swords. Hence, he decided to only use the Qidian sword to fight. Anyway, in terms of material, the starting point sword was definitely made with the material of an Emperor Sword level sword lady. It would not be at a disadvantage in terms of weapons. How foolish! Go to hell then! The Incongruence Saint Mother was infuriated by this human who didn't know what was good for him. She was kind enough to spare his life, but she didn't expect this human to be so ungrateful. Since that was the case, the Incongruence Divine Mother made up her mind to kill this damned human. After all, there were still 3 or 4 living people behind her. When the time came, all she needed to do was to leave one alive and ask about the outside world. As she didn't take Gohan seriously from the beginning, the Incongruence Divine Mother attacked rather casually. She didn't even use any specific technique. She just condensed a huge gust of goblin power and smashed it directly at Gohan's head, planning to blast Gohan into minced meat. However, one shouldn't underestimate this goblin power. Although she didn't use any techniques, the dense goblin power itself was the strongest demonic technique. The reason why monsters created all sorts of demonic techniques was that they didn't have enough goblin power themselves. They needed demonic techniques to cause greater damage. However, if the goblin power itself was extremely dense, then in terms of lethality, a huge gust of goblin power would definitely surpass demonic techniques of the same level. The Incongruence Divine Mother had been cooped up in this alternate space for hundreds of thousands of years. Apart from cultivating goblin power and splitting consciousness fragments, there was nothing else she could do. Her goblin power had already reached an extremely dense level. When this gust of goblin power smashed down, It was roughly equivalent to the full power of an immortal sword-level swordsman. As long as it landed on any spiritual sword-level swordsman, this swordsman wouldn't be able to survive. Unfortunately, Gohan wasn't a spiritual sword-level swordsman. Currently, Gohan was already a genuine Gyendi. However, in order to hide his true strength, Gohan still pretended to be strenuous to resist. After withstanding the gust of goblin power, he broke into a run and fled. This human is quite capable. He actually withstood it. Ever since Emperor Huang Xianyuan, there hasn't been such a powerful human in a long time. Seeing that Gohan actually withstood her goblin power, the incongruous Divine Mother said in shock. Although the protagonists of the Great War of Deification of the Gods back then were humans, they were actually just the fews to push the plot forward. The ones who really fought were the disciples of the Jie school and the other 3 schools. The strongest among the humans was just like Jiang Zia, who relied on the god's striking whip and the deification list to intimidate others. Without these 2 things, the incongruous Divine Mother was confident that with a gust of goblin power, Jiang Zia would be turned into ashes on the spot. His performance would definitely not be as strong as the human in front of her. Junior Sister Wudong is a little too soft-hearted after all. Lady Yunxiao smiled. When we catch up to him again, Junior Sister Wudong, don't go easy on him again. Of course. This brat won't be able to escape again. The incongruous Divine Mother said hatefully. The 2 of them chased after him again. Not long after, they found Gohan, who was running for his life. At the same time, they also saw the exit of the secret passage. It was a cave entrance that was glowing with white light. A large number of humans and aborigines were leaving the mountain through the cave entrance. Damn it, there's a crack entrance there. We actually didn't know about it. Seeing the exit, the incongruous Divine Mother was shocked. At first, they thought that the reason why the humans came in was because they mastered the spells of Jie school. In the end, they found out that there was a crack entrance in the alternate space. The entrance was actually hidden deep inside the mountain. That was why the incongruous Divine Mother and the rest had never discovered it. They only realized it today. Junior Sister, this is great news. Seeing the entrance, Lady Yunxiao smiled in surprise. We've always been worried that opening the seal from the inside would destroy the entire alternate space. Now that there's a naturally formed crack entrance, we can enter and exit the outside world freely. Isn't this great news? That's right. That's great news. Hearing that, the incongruous Divine Mother cried out in surprise. However, she did not relax her grip. More than 10 streams of monster power instantly smashed towards the natives who had yet to escape. She planned to kill these damned humans first. Hurry up and run! Gohan roared and once again blocked in front of the incongruous Divine Mother. However, this time, Gohan could only use his personal shield to block the attack. In the end, he was hit by the incongruous Divine Mother and spat out 4 to 5 mouthfuls of blood. He felt terrible. Damned little B****, you actually blocked my good news again. The incongruous Divine Mother stomped her feet in anger. While Gohan used his life to block the attack, the remaining aborigines had already escaped. Only the sword-bearers were left in the cave. Don't even think about leaving. Lady Yunxiao could not stand it anymore. Her snow-white sleeves suddenly grew out like 2 long snakes and coiled around the waists of the remaining human sword-bearers. She wanted to keep these humans in the cave. Hurry up and leave! Gohan roared again. Then, a few sword lights flashed and Lady Yunxiao's sleeves were all cut off by Gohan. The remaining sword-bearers seized the opportunity to escape. Little B****, I'm going to skin you alive. Seeing that most of her prey had escaped, the incongruous Divine Mother's anger towards Gohan was at its peak. This time, she did not hold back anymore. She took out a pyramid-like object and threw it at Gohan. The pyramid grew at an extremely fast speed. In the end, it became the size of a small mountain and smashed towards Gohan. Just you wait, I'll be back. Gohan continued to roar. Then, Little Three smashed onto Gohan's body. Seeing that Gohan was about to be crushed under the mountain, Gohan nimbly tapped the ground with his sword and changed the direction of his body. Instead, he used the momentum of the small mountain to fly out of the cave. Damn! The incongruous Divine Mother's face froze. Could this human be a loach? He actually managed to escape from me time and time again. Junior sister, don't panic. They just escaped from this world. When we get out of here, we can. Before Lady Yuan Shao could finish her sentence, her entire body stiffened. That was because Lady Yuan Shao had also arrived outside the cave. However, she did not leave through the cave. Instead, she was blocked by the cave as if there was an invisible barrier. What's going on? Senior sister, why don't you leave? Seeing Lady Yuan Zhao's reaction, the incongruous Divine Mother asked curiously. It's not that I don't want to leave. Master won't let me leave. Lady Yuan Shao replied with a bitter smile. The incongruous Divine Mother was even more confused. However, the incongruous Divine Mother soon figured out what was going on. When she sensed the barrier at the exit, she was shocked to find that there was a consciousness fragment left behind by the sect leader of Tong Tian at the exit. There was only one message in this consciousness fragment. The sect leader of Tong Tian told his disciples that he would return one day. Before he returned, all of his disciples had to stay in this alternate space obediently and were not allowed to leave. Otherwise, they would be punished according to the sect rules. Sigh, I didn't expect it to be all for naught in the end. We still can't leave this place. After knowing the consciousness left by the sect leader of Tong Tian, the incongruous Divine Mother said dejectedly. Although she could leave this damned place as long as she took a step forward at this moment. However, she had no choice but to retreat obediently because of the consciousness fragment left behind by the sect leader of Tong Tian. She did not dare to take a step forward. However, this is also a good thing. He wants to tell us that Master is not dead. He will definitely return. Compared to the incongruous Divine Mother's dejection, Lady Yuan Shao said with a smile. Chapter 1534. Brother Gu Fan, the three of us will never forget your and your wife's great kindness. If you and your wife need any errands in this lifetime, as long as you and your wife say the word, we will go through water and tread on fire without hesitation. After escaping from the dimensional rift, the three swordsmen immediately knelt in front of Flowing Time Maple and thanked him gratefully. Sigh. Cough cough. That's. Cough cough. That's too much. We're all humans. Cough cough. Of course. Cough cough. We should support each other. Cough cough. Gohan kept coughing out blood as he spoke. This scene made the three swordsmen even more grateful. They almost swore to the heavens that they would be Gohan's sons for the rest of their lives. That's strange. Why aren't those two monsters chasing after us? One of the swordsmen asked curiously when he saw that there was no reaction from the dimensional rift and that there were no monsters chasing after them. Cough cough. Who knows? Cough cough. Perhaps they can't leave that place, Gohan said while coughing. However, he knew the reason why Goddess Incongruence and Lady Yuan Shao did not chase after them. This was because he had seen the consciousness fragment left behind by the sect master in the dimensional rift. Therefore, Gohan knew that these two monsters, who respected his master very much, would never go against his master's will. It was just like how Lucihua would never go against his master's will. However, the sect master of Tong Tian has indeed been resurrected. That consciousness fragment was clearly left there not long ago. At the same time, Gohan also sensed that the consciousness fragment was very fresh. It did not seem like a consciousness fragment left behind from thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. The sect master of Tong Tian must have been here before and might have even wandered around this exit. However, for some unknown reason, the sect master of Tong Tian did not enter the alternate dimension. He only left behind this consciousness fragment to warn his disciple not to leave through this place. Brother Gu Fan, hurry up and enter the medical pod to recuperate. Otherwise, your body will become even worse. Seeing that Gu Han was still coughing out blood, Amakusa Ichiro tried to persuade him worriedly. No. Gu Han shook his head in pain. Although we just escaped from the monster's territory, this is still Yuan Ko's territory. If another powerful Yuan Ko came looking for them, they would be finished. Moreover, you have to send these ordinary people to Yanjing City, which is thousands of miles away. It goes without saying that the journey will be difficult and arduous. If I stay in the medical cabin, I might die there. It's better to fight side by side with you. That way, the odds of success will be higher. Brother Gufan, you don't have to worry about this. The nearby Yuan Ko won't hurt us, and we've built a city nearby. As long as we send these people into the city, they'll be safe. It'll take less than 10 minutes. Ichiro Amakusa said quickly. Amakusa, you. Hearing Amakusa Ichiro speak the truth, the swordsman beside him glared at Amakusa Ichiro. Big brother, Brother Gu Fan doesn't want to risk his life to save us. Even if our Yamato city is exposed, I don't care. At worst, I'll just return Brother Gu Fan's life. Amakusa Ichiro said firmly. When the other two sword-bearers heard Amakusa Ichiro's words, they immediately fell silent. Gohan had saved Amakusa Ichiro's life, and so had they. What Yamato city? What are you talking about? Why don't I understand? Guhan, who looked weak, asked strangely. Brother Gu Fan, don't worry about it. Take a good rest in the medical pod. When you reach our Yamato city, you'll know everything. Amakusa Ichiro sighed and forced Guhan into the medical pod with Song Ifei. Seeing that the red light for treatment had lit up, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They carried Guhan's medical pod and began to move in a certain direction. Just as Amakusa Ichiro had said, after walking for less than 10 minutes, they found a city in front of them. Rather than calling it a city, it was more like a lively village. There was not even a proper city wall around it, only a wall made of wood that was 7 or 8 meters high. This wooden wall was probably used to prevent humans from walking out of the village, not to prevent Yuan Ko from attacking from the outside. When they arrived at the entrance of the village, the gate of the village began to open slowly. A man wearing the traditional samurai robe of the Yamato people stood at the gate, welcoming the people who were returning. Wuzhang Shiho, aren't you already dead? Seeing this man, Song Ifei was so shocked that his hands loosened and he almost dropped the medical cabin that was filled with the solid cold. Why is there an outsider here? Wushang Shifang was also taken aback by Song Ifei's appearance. Ichiro Amakusa lowered his head and briefly told Wushang Shifang what had just happened. So it was you two who saved my disciples. I am Wuzhang Shiho, thank you both. After listening to Amakusa Ichiro's story, Wuzhang Shiho bowed deeply to Song Ifei and Gohan, who was in the medical pod. Sword Sage Wuzhang, you are too polite. Sword Sage Wuzhang, why are you here? Didn't you already? Song Ifei could not wait to ask about it, but Wuzhang Shiho waved his hand and smiled. You too, this is not a suitable place to talk. Why don't you follow me to the sword committee? I will naturally answer your questions. Wuzhang Shiho said calmly. Forget it. We still have to go back to Yanjing City to report on the mission. Goodbye. Song Ifei stepped back, picked up the medical pod, and was ready to leave this place. Sai, you are our guests. You can take a rest before you leave. As soon as Wuzhang Shiho's voice fell, 3 or 4 famed swordsmen came out from behind and blocked Song Ifei's way out. Because Song Ifei was playing the role of a famed swordsman, of course, he was no match for 3 or 4 people. He could only stand there angrily and look at Sword Sage Wuzhang. After all, he had to put on a good show. Don't worry, no matter how much of a jerk I am, I will not hurt my compatriot. Let's just have a chat. Wuzhang Shiho said again. This time, Song Yifei finally did not want to retreat. Instead, he obediently followed Wuzhang Shiho and entered the sword committee. I've been wanting to ask just now. Miss, you look very familiar, and you even recognized me at a glance. May I ask if we have met before? Perhaps we used to be friends? After carefully looking at Song Yifei, Wuzhang Shifang couldn't help but ask curiously. My name is Song Yifei, and I do not have the fate to meet Sword Sage Wuzhang. As for how I know you, Sword Sage Wuzhang is famous all over the world. Who doesn't know him? What's so strange about me knowing him? Song Yifei said in annoyance. Song Yifei, what a familiar name. I feel like I have heard it somewhere before. When Wuzhang Shiho heard Song Yifei's name, he fell into deep thought. After thinking for 5 or 6 minutes, Wuzhang Shiho finally seemed to remember something and asked, Miss Song Yifei is Yuzhang City's swordsman, Baiju Sword Sage's disciple. She is also Hongjun Sword Sage Gohan and Shihua Sword Sage Lu Shihua, as well as Frost Jiendi and Liunian Ling. This guy actually remembers me. Hearing Wuzhang Shiho directly read out his identity, Song Yifei was really shocked. Because he had been missing for more than 20 years, Song Yifei had always thought that the whole world had almost forgotten him. Unexpectedly, Wuzhang Shifang, a dignified sword wielder of the immortal sword grade, actually remembered his name and remembered his identity. This was really a little too surprising. Behind him, Amakusa Ichiro was also shocked. He did not expect Song Yifei's identity to be so amazing. He did not expect that Song Yifei's identity would be so great that he was related to so many big shot. He really met someone with a big background. Haha, a wrong decision back then caused a lasting regret. If I had let go of my pride and arrogance, then Hongjun Sword Sage would have been my disciple. Every time I think of this, I regret it. In addition, Hongjun Sword Sage is a genius, unparalleled in the world, so I naturally pay special attention to him. I also know a little more about the people and friends around him, so I remember the name Song Yifei. Wuzhang Shiho said with a long sigh. He did not expect that it was because of Gu Han again. By the way, Miss Song Yifei seems to have disappeared all traces 20 years ago. Even when I left Yanjing City 7 years ago, there was no news of Miss Song Yifei. If I did not see Miss Song Yifei with my own eyes today, I would have thought that Miss Song Yifei has. You think I am already dead, right? Song Yifei rolled his eyes at Wuzhang Shiho. Sorry, not only did I not die, but I also came back to life. Haha, Miss Song Yifei is really a sentimental person. But don't vent your anger on me. Naturally, you have to find someone to vent your anger on. I don't want to be wronged. Wuzhang Shiho laughed. Then explain your matter first, Song Yifei said coldly. What do you want me to explain? Wuzhang Shiho asked. You, a guy who has been dead in the official records for 7 years, is actually standing in front of me alive. Shouldn't you give me a good explanation? Song Yifei snorted and asked. Don't worry, I will explain it. But Miss Song Yifei, please explain who is in this medical cabin. It is the good guy that I have hated for 20 years, Sword Sage Hongjun. Wuzhang Shifang snorted coldly. More than a dozen sword chi burst out in an instant, and the cover of the medical bay was cracked in an instant. A large amount of aquamarine restoration fluid gushed out of the medical bay. A figure appeared behind Wuzhang Shifang and said with a smile, Senior Wuzhang, long time no see. Chapter 1535. My little friend Gohan, it's really you. When Gohan really appeared in front of Wuzhang Shifang looked at the guy in front of him with a complicated gaze. This little guy, who had knelt in front of him and wanted to worship him as a teacher, but he had casually found a reason to reject him, was now standing proudly in front of him. At this time, he was standing at the peak of human beings and had become an Emperor Sword-level sword wielder. Even peerless masters like Ing Zheng and 12 Zhu Wu had died in his hands. In front of him, Wuzhang Shifang was probably not even worth a finger. Thinking of this, Wuzhang Shifang began to regret again. Why had he been such a jerk, so reserved, so indifferent? If he had accepted Gohan as a disciple, then his long-cherished wish of many years would have been realized now. Senior Wuzhang, 20 years have passed, but your body is still so handsome, Gohan said with a smile. Indeed, although they had been separated for 20 years, Wuzhang Shifang still looked the same as he did 20 years ago. He still maintained the appearance of a middle-aged man. Unlike Long Shijiendi, 20 years ago, Long Shijiendi also looked like a middle-aged man in his prime, but 20 years later, he had become an old man. Now, he had ascended to become an immortal, and had disappeared with the passage of time. Just what kind of method did this Wuzhang Shifang use to be able to maintain his appearance and spirit without any change after 20 years? I am ashamed. When Wuzhang Shifang heard Gohan say this, his face stiffened, and at the same time, he showed an ashamed expression. He lowered his head and said, I am sorry to human beings, I am sorry to the human race. What do you mean? You, Wuzhang Shifang, are a senior of human beings. You have shed your blood for human beings, and you have made great achievements in war. Even if you hide here now, your blemishes do not obscure your brilliance. You don't have to be sorry to human beings. Although Gohan was praising Wuzhang Shifang, his tone was very calm. Fine, a straightforward person will not resort to insinuations. Since little friend Gohan and little friend Ifei are here, I have nothing to hide. The reason why I don't look old is not because I am good at taking care of myself, but because I am no longer a human being. Wuzhang Shifang sighed and said something that shocked Song Yifei to his core. Wuzhang Shifang actually said that he's no longer a human? What does that mean? Could it be that this Wuzhang Shifang is the same as my master? Song Yifei suddenly raised his head and looked at Wuzhang Shifang. Then, he looked at Gohan, who had a calm expression and finally understood something. Sigh, looks like Senior Wuzhang has also reached this step. Gohan sighed. In fact, Gohan already knew what had happened to Wu Zhangshi the moment he laid eyes on him. This was because Wu Zhangshi was now like him and Mingyuan Jiendi. His body had been contaminated by filth, and he had become half Yuan Ko and half a human being. However, this Wuzhang Shifang could actually live peacefully with other human beings, which surprised Gohan quite a bit. This was because Gohan knew very well how terrifying filth was and how horribly it could corrode the will of human beings. Gohan relied on his willpower to resist the corruption of the impurities, and the Netherira's Sword Emperor relied on the black crystal to resist the corruption of the impurities. So what did Wu Zhangfang rely on to resist the impurities? Also, what had happened to this Wuzhang Shifang that made him fall into the same situation as him? Little friend Gohan knows what happened to my lower body? Wuzhang Shifang was also shocked by Gohan's words. From the meaning behind Gohan's words, it seemed like Gohan already knew what had happened to his body. Aren't you already corroded by filth? Gohan said faintly. You actually know! Wuzhang Shifang widened his eyes and exclaimed in admiration. Then, he helplessly withdrew his hand. Little friend Gohan, you are right. I have indeed been corroded by filth. I am now just a monster that is half human and half Yuan Ko. What exactly happened to your body? How did you end up like this? Gohan immediately asked. Little friend Gohan, since you know about my body's condition, you should also know that I will only be corroded by filth if I enter the main world through a dimensional rift in another dimension, right? Wuzhang Shifang said faintly. I already know about this. Gohan nodded and said, So, Senior Wuzhang, you mistakenly entered a dimensional world and were corroded by filth in order to return to the main world. Yes and no. Wuzhang Shifang nodded and then shook his head. I did enter a dimensional world, but I didn't enter it by mistake. I entered it on my own initiative. I took the initiative to become like this. Wuzhang Shifang said frankly. Wuzhang Shifang actually entered a dimensional world on his own initiative. Gohan raised his head in disbelief, and looked at the frank Wuzhang Shifang. His heart surged with great confusion. Although Gohan's situation was the same as Wuzhang Shifang's, Gohan had been forced to become like this. He had been forced to enter a dimensional world because he had no other choice. This was the same as Mingyuan Jiandi. Mingyuan Jiandi had also been forced to enter a dimensional world because of the seamless corridor's destruction, becoming half human and half Yuan Ko. Gohan and Mingyuan Jiandi had been forced to do this. If they had a choice, they would never have wanted to see this happen. However, Wuzhang Shifang was different. He had actually entered a dimensional world of his own accord. This meant that Wuzhang wanted to become half human and half Yuan Ko. Why did he do this? Why did Wuzhang Shifang do such a thing? Gohan felt that Wuzhang Shifang was in disbelief. He hoped to get an answer from Wuzhang's mouth. I have a dream. Seeing Gohan's puzzled gaze, Wuzhang Shifang stood up from his seat. He raised his head 45 degrees upwards, staring at the distant, rather melancholy sunlight. Finally, he spoke in a voice that was filled with the vicissitudes of life. I was born into an unhappy family. My father was the last famed sword-wielder of the Wuzhang clan, while my mother was the last direct descendant of the Wuzhang clan. The Wuzhang clan is the imperial clan of the Yamato people, and it is the last clan in this world that maintains the traditions of the Yamato people while only intermarrying with members of the Yamato bloodline. In the beginning, there were over 100 clans like the Wuzhang clan, clans that attempted to maintain the pure bloodline of the Yamato people. But as time went on and the world changed, no matter how great a tradition was, it was no longer able to resist fate. Those 100 clans either changed their beliefs or were completely destroyed by the tides of history. In the end, only the Wuzhang clan was left. There were no other pure-blooded Yamato people who could intermarry with the Wuzhang clan. Left with no other choice, in order to maintain the traditions of the Wuzhang clan, the clan had no choice but to destroy human relations and choose to intermarry with members of the same surname. Just like my mother, she was a child born from a pair of siblings. Wuzhang Shifang said calmly. Why do you want to maintain such a boring tradition? Hearing Wuzhang Shifang's words, Song Yifei said angrily, Kanzu said long ago that from the moment of the apocalypse, there was no longer any distinction between races on Earth. All races are Earthlings, and all Earthlings are humans. We shouldn't continue to be bound by our bloodlines, because our bloodlines are inherently hostile to each other. We should merge all our bloodlines together and fight in the name of all humans. Why do you insist on doing such a boring thing, even going so far as to commit such heartless acts of incest? What a joke! Hearing Song Yifei's words, Wuzhang Shifang's lips curled into a cold smile. That's just a huge joke. Perhaps Kanzu did have such an idea back then, but in reality, it was your Chinese bloodline, Chinese people, and Chinese culture that began to unscrupulously devour the bloodlines and culture of other races. Even the powerful Europeans were devoured by your Chinese people, completely losing their culture and traditions. Isn't this a matter of course? Song Yifei frowned and said, and please don't use the word devour. This is not devouring, but integration. It's the integration of all races. It's not one-sided devouring. Ha ha ha, Miss Song Yifei, are you lying with your eyes open, or are you lying with your eyes closed? Wuzhang Shifang sneered a few times and said, if it's really integration, I'm willing to admit it. But in fact, almost all humans now call themselves Chinese. The name of Huaxia resounds throughout the earth, and everyone is proud of the Chinese bloodline in their bodies. However, our Yamato people have declined to the point where there are only a few poor kittens and puppies left. If we want to learn our own national language, we even have to go to the rescue protection class of non-Chinese material cultural heritage created by your Chinese people to learn. If our Yamato people want to learn from our Yamato people, they have to worship you Chinese people as their teachers. Isn't that the funniest lie in the world? Wu Zhang Shifeng's words were so enlightening that Song Yifei couldn't refute him at the same time. She could only stand there in silence. In fact, even Gohan couldn't refute Wu Zhang Shifeng's words, because Wu Zhang Shifeng was telling the truth. In history, it had always been the strong culture devouring the weak culture. There was no problem of ethnic integration at all. If ethnic and culture could really be integrated, why was it that after thousands of years, the Chinese people were still the Chinese people, while the Mongolians and the Manchus, who had once occupied China, had completely lost their ethnic culture and become a member of China? In the end, they could only become exhibits in the museum. Therefore, the fact was that the strong culture and ethnic group would devour the weak culture and ethnic group. In the end, all cultures and ethnic groups would be devoured by the strongest one, and the real unification of mankind would be realized. This was the historical necessity, and Gohan believed that whether the great apocalypse happened or not, it would be the great Chinese people who would devour all cultures and ethnic groups in the end. Because only the culture of the Chinese people could be so broad-minded that it could accommodate and devour all cultures in the world. This was something that was destined the moment the culture of the Chinese people was created. Chapter 1536. Yifei, don't say any more. Senior Wu Zhang is speaking the truth. Just let him continue. Gohan finally mediated. With Gohan's help, Wu Zhang Shifu continued, actually, my mother's ancestors also knew that the trend of history was irresistible. Forcefully going against history and going against human ethics by intermarrying with people of the same surname would lead to endless trouble in the future. But my mother's ancestors didn't know that retribution would come so quickly. With the start of intermarrying with people of the same surname, it became extremely difficult to give birth. Even if a child was successfully born, the chances of the child becoming a child with dementia were too high for our family to bear. The Wu Zhang family had never had a sword bearer. Originally, they could only barely keep the family fed and warm. But with the start of intermarrying with people of the same surname, there were no more sword bearers in our family. What was even more terrifying was that the children with dementia who were born had no ability to work. They could only be raised by the family and became a burden to the family. The family's assets were quickly consumed. By my mother's generation, there were only 3 sane people in the entire family. And these 3 sane people had to think of ways to support 18 children with dementia. This even included my mother's grandfather. Finally, when my mother was 14 years old, my mother's parents couldn't bear such a painful life anymore. After knocking my mother out and throwing her out, they set fire to the entire house. They burned themselves and the 18 children with dementia to death. Just like that, the Wu Zhang family was completely annihilated. Only my mother was left. At that time, my mother was still underage and didn't have the ability to support herself. Moreover, she couldn't see a future, so she finally decided to enter a maid academy and sold herself to become an exclusive maid. She planned to live a life of relying on others and live out the rest of her life. So, when my mother graduated, she met my father, a noble sword bearer. However, I will never voluntarily mention this guy's name in my life, because he is already dead in my heart. At this point, Wu Zhang Shifu's face suddenly revealed an expression of extreme anger. What surprised Gohan was that there was a hint of unconcealable fear in his furious expression. Wu Zhangshifeng's father is... Gohan's heart skipped a beat. He immediately searched for Wu Zhangshifeng's detailed information on his personal terminal. At the same time, he also found the information on Wu Zhangshifeng's father. Based on the information, this father seemed to be a rather perfect person. He had a certain level of strength and was polite to others. He often participated in various charity groups and donated around 70% of his assets to improve the lives of ordinary people. In any case, from the information he had, he was a role model for humanity. It was hard to imagine that such a father would make Wuzhang Shifang so angry. Wuzhang Shifang continued to speak. My father is a bastard, a demon in human skin. He's completely different inside and outside the house. He's the most bastard in the world. He had chosen my mother only because he liked her patience. From the day my mother entered the door, he launched endless torture on my mother. Even when my mother was pregnant with me, he still didn't let my mother go. Even after I was born, he didn't let my childhood go. Guhan could hear the sound of Wuzhang Shifu's teeth grinding. I don't want to remember what my mother and I have been through for the rest of my life. You just need to apply all the cruelest things in the world to my mother and I. The only thing I can have and keep is this life. Later, even my mother, who was good at enduring and had the most excellent Yamato character, couldn't bear the torture of that bastard and ended her life with a bottle of poison. Before my mother died, I asked my mother why the two of us were treated so cruelly. So my mother told me that because the two of us have the blood of the Yamato race in our bodies, and in the eyes of that bastard, all non-Chinese bloodlines are the most lowly bloodlines in the world. That's why that bastard tortures us like this. In the end, my mother still left, but before she left me a chip. It was filled with all the information of the Yamato people that the Wuzhang family had kept for thousands of years. So from that moment on, I made up my mind to rebuild our Yamato people. In our Yamato people's homeland, we'll build a country that belongs to us, so that the Chinese can never bully our Yamato people again. Our Yamato people will become a real people again and stand tall on this land. Hearing this, Guhan and Song Yifei thought at the same time. Wuzhang Shifang continued to speak. This must be the source of Wuzhang Shifang's obsession. That bastard had many children, so he didn't like me at all. After my mother died, he chased me to live in the storeroom. I was clearly already 12 years old, but I was still wearing the clothes that my mother had personally sewn for me before she died 6 years ago. I was as humble as a slave in front of my brothers and sisters until one day, when that bastard returned home, he found that his home had been turned into a sea of fire. His 13 children had all turned into 13 charred corpses. My brothers and sisters are really pitiful. Never in their wildest dreams did they think that a lowly worm would dare to set fire to everyone, including himself. Wuzhang Shifang's face began to show a sinister expression, and this expression also made Song Yifei feel a chill from the depths of his bones. This Wuzhang Shifang was only 12 years old, and he had actually set fire to all his brothers and sisters. This kind of viciousness was something that Song Yifei could never have imagined. However, Song Yifei did not feel much pity for those who had died tragically. After all, from Wuzhang Shifang's resentful tone, he could tell that Wuzhang Shifang had suffered inhumane treatment during his childhood, and how his brothers and sisters had abused him. At first, I wanted to burn myself to death too. Wuzhang Shifang seemed to have thought of something interesting, and suddenly smiled. But perhaps God wanted me to live. The storeroom I lived in actually had exceptionally good fireproofing properties. In the end, when the fire was finally extinguished, my 13 brothers and sisters were already dead, but I only suffered a little burn on my feet, and I was still alive and kicking. I guess that bastard must have known that the fire that burned all his children was set by me, and I was his most hated enemy. But he did not dare to tell the truth, and instead completely changed his attitude, and became extraordinarily nice to me. He cared about me every day without a break, and I actually became the happiest child in the world. Wuzhang Shifang said, and suddenly his body began to tremble crazily. Ha ha ha, that bastard, because of excessive indulgence, he actually lost the ability to reproduce. I know that he went to see a doctor more than once, wanting to restore his ability to reproduce, and once he gave birth to any child, it would be the time of my death. But he was really useless, and he had already become a useless person. He only had one son, me, and if he didn't want to be completely cut off, he could only take good care of me, and love me like his own son, even though I was indeed his own son. Wuzhang Shifang's laughter revealed how much sorrow was revealed, and perhaps only Wuzhang Shifang himself knew clearly in his heart. Later, when I was tested to have the talent of a sword-bearer, he was even happier, and he could not bear to kill me, so he treated me even better. Especially when I successfully synchronized with the Xianming sword, he told me that I was the person he loved the most in his life, and my mother was also the person he loved the most in his life, and he would be proud of me for the rest of his life. Wuzhang Shifang's mouth flashed a trace of a sinister smile. Originally, I did not want to kill him. Originally, I wanted to see that he gave me this body, and let him live peacefully until he grew old. But I did not think that he could be shameless to this extent. It was fine that he lied to me, but he actually went against his conscience and lied to my mother. I was completely furious, so I took him out to fight with me, and then deliberately entered the territory of a universe-level Yuan Ko. Then, I watched as he was eaten alive by a universe-level Yuan Ko, and before he died, he cried to me for help. Listening to his screams, I suddenly felt empty. I had already avenged my mother, but at the same time, I had also lost my future. I no longer knew what I should do next. At that time, I was muddle-headed, and my entire body was on the verge of collapse. I had to use the fastest speed to find a goal that I could fight for the rest of my life, or else I would lose the motivation to live and eventually become a rotten corpse. Fortunately, I finally found the goal I wanted, which was to take the lifelong goal of the Wuzhang family as my own responsibility, to create a world that only belongs to the Yamato nation, and to let the Yamato nation once again stand up. Wuzhang Shifang waved his fist and said passionately, "From that day onwards, I was not called Zhang Shifang, I was called Wuzhang Shifang." In the next few decades, I began to accumulate the power to offend people. On one hand, I worked for you Chinese, on the other hand, Hao Tianjiandi, and I acted as his most loyal lackey. On the other hand, I began to collect the scattered geniuses of the Yamato nation. As long as a genius with the blood of the Yamato nation passed the synchronization, I immediately took them in as a disciple and took care of them. At the same time, I instilled them with the glorious history of the Yamato nation. In the end, I established a medium-sized organization with hundreds of sword-bearers, an organization that truly belongs to the Yamato nation. Wuzhang Shifang said faintly. The organization that truly belongs to the Yamato nation was probably the sword-bearers that stayed in Yamato City. Chapter 1537. So you faked your death and came here? Gohan asked with a frown after listening to Wuzhang Shifang's narration. That's right. My original plan was to wait a little longer until the sword-bearers I had trained had fully matured. It would be best if there was another sword immortal level cultivator among them. Only then would I activate my plan and bring my people to Japan to build Yamato City. Wuzhang Shifang sighed and said, "It's a pity that the plan couldn't keep up with the changes. I didn't expect that the 12 ancestors of sorcery would be released again. I thought that it was impossible for humans to defeat the 12 ancestors of sorcery again, so I left with my subordinate. On the surface, I said that I was going to fight the 12 Zuwu, but in reality, I was just bringing everyone to Japan. Actually, I had good intentions. If the 8 base cities had really perished, then this place of mine would be the last hope of humanity. In a way, I could be considered a hero and an extension of humanity." Wuzhang Shifang looked at Gohan and said shamelessly, "If humanity had really perished, then perhaps you would indeed be an extension of humanity." Gohan nodded, but his face revealed a disdainful expression. "But you're wrong. Our 8 base cities have not perished, and the population of 200 million is still here. You are not an extension of humanity, but a traitor of humanity." "Yes, I am indeed a traitor now." Wuzhang Shifang said with a bitter smile. I originally thought that humanity was doomed, but I didn't expect it to survive in the end. Little friend Guhan, it is truly a great fortune for our human race to have a hero like you. So, you don't hate me for ruining your plan to become an extension of humanity, Gohan said with a hint of playfulness. I am a Yamato, but I am also a human. No one can change this. You are a well-deserved hero for humanity to be able to preserve its strength. I express my sincere gratitude to you. After Wuzhang Shifang finished speaking, he suddenly knelt in front of Gohan and kowtowed to Gohan to express his gratitude. Humph! Gohan snorted coldly. Although he was very disdainful of Wu Zhangshir's actions, Gohan could feel that Wu Zhangshir wasn't kneeling to curry favor with him. Instead, Wu Zhangshir was sincerely thanking him for saving humanity. Based on this point alone, Gohan had to admit that Wu Zhangshir wasn't beyond redemption. Then what do you plan to do next? Gohan didn't let Wuzhang Shifang get up from the ground. He simply stood in front of Wuzhang Shifang and asked. Of course, it is to take root in the land that belongs to our Yamato people, continue, and finally recreate another Yamato people. Wuzhang Shifang didn't intend to stand up. He continued to kneel in front of Gohan and said, What a joke! Where do you think this is? How many people do you think you have? How many sword bearers do you think you have? How many sword ladies do you think you have? What right do you have to lead these humans to continue living? Will the Yuan Ko here treat you as nothing? Gohan asked 4 questions in a row, causing Wuzhang Shifang to sweat profusely. This is our Yamato people's land. Wuzhang Shifang gritted his teeth and said, As for the population, you already know that there are at least 100,000 humans in that dimensional rift. Furthermore, they are all pure Yamato people. As long as we can save all these people, our Yamato city will have the foundation to continue existing. As long as we have enough people, we can also have enough sword bearers. As for the sword ladies, you originally planned on waiting for the humans on the mainland to perish before going over to clean up the battlefield and pick up all the sword ladies we left behind, right? Gohan directly said what Wuzhang Shifang wanted to say next. Wuzhang Shifang didn't even have the courage to retort because that was the truth. Then how do you plan on dealing with the Yuan Ko here? Gohan continued asking. I don't plan on dealing with the Yuan Ko here. We can live in harmony, Wuzhang Shifang said with his head lowered. Humans and the Yuan Ko have been fighting for thousands of years. What right do you have to say that you can live in harmony with the Yuan Ko? Gohan asked curiously. Sorry, I can't say. Wuzhang Shifang, who had been speaking freely, suddenly shut his mouth and was unwilling to answer Gohan's question. You have to answer. Gohan didn't say much. He pulled out his Xianyuan sword and pressed it against Wuzhang Shifang's head. Feeling the slight coolness coming from the Xianyuan sword, Wuzhang Shifang couldn't help but swallow a few mouthfuls of saliva. Wuzhang Shifang, who had been paying close attention to the situation on the mainland, already knew Gohan's strength very well. He knew that Gohan had ascended to the throne and become an Emperor's sword-level sword wielder. Moreover, the synchronized Emperor's sword-level sword mistress was unprecedented since ancient times. The Xianyuan sword, known as the Emperor of Emperor's sword-level sword mistresses, was fully deserving of being the number 1 Emperor's sword-level sword mistress. At the same time, Gohan also proved that he was also deserving of being the number 1 Emperor sword-level expert by killing Ying Zheng and 12 Zhu Wu. Perhaps even Kanzu back then couldn't reach Gohan's current achievements. It could be said that Wuzhang Shifang had no chance of winning against Gohan. Otherwise, Wuzhang Shifang wouldn't have told Gohan all the secrets he had hidden in his heart and the painful experiences he had gone through in his childhood. This was because Wuzhang Shifang knew that only by telling the truth to Gohan, Gohan might spare his life. Only then would he be able to protect himself. The Yamato city that Wuzhang Shifeng had painstakingly built was the dream that Wuzhang Shifeng had worked hard for his entire life. Gohan was also very clear about Wuzhang Shifeng's thought. At the same time, it was precisely because of this that Gohan felt very strange. Wuzhang Shifeng was obviously going to tell everything he knew, but why was he clenching his teeth on this issue and unwilling to speak no matter what? Even a fool would know that there must be a bigger secret behind Wuzhang Shifeng's reluctance to speak. Gohan was going to force this secret out no matter what. I promised that person that I would not tell the truth no matter what. I beg you, Your Majesty Hongjun, please don't force me. Wuzhang Shifeng was almost begging Gohan. Ife, according to the database of our sword committee, this senior Wuzhang Shifeng should be dead, right? Gohan suddenly looked at Song Ife and asked with a smile. Isn't that nonsense? Song Ife rolled his eyes at Gohan. Then all the sword bearers here should be dead, right? Gohan asked again. Let me see. Well, they all died on the battlefield 5 years ago. Their bodies are all gone. They died quite cleanly. Song Ife seemed to understand something and said with a smile. You. Hongjun Jiandi, you. Of course, Wuzhang Shifeng also understood Gohan's intention at this time. He, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly wanted to stand up and argue with Gohan. However, the Xian Yuan sword directly hit Wuzhang Shifeng's shoulder. Wuzhang Shifeng was instantly suppressed and continued to kneel in front of Gohan. He could not even move a centimeter. And the aborigines here, oh, the sword committee doesn't know that they exist at all. They are also dead, right? Gohan walked around Wuzhang Shifeng's neck with the Xian Yuan sword, and at the same time, said the most frightening sentence to Wuzhang Shifeng. Even if I kill them all, no one will come to trouble me, right? I am still the hero and savior of mankind, right? You. Shameless. You. You don't deserve to be the savior of mankind. Wuzhang Shifeng was extremely sad and angry. He never expected that the savior of mankind could threaten him with so many human lives. Was he really the savior of mankind? Yes, I am the savior of mankind. Gohan kicked Wu Zhangshi's stomach, sending Wu Zhangshi, who was once his senior, who Gohan had to kneel on the ground and beg to become his disciple, flying out with a single kick. Wu Zhangshi crashed heavily into the wall. What was surprising was that even though the force of the impact was extremely heavy, the wall, which was made of wood and should have been extremely fragile, did not move at all. It did not even shake a little. This situation had already violated the basic laws of physics. It could be seen how amazing Gohan's control of power was. Wuzhang Shifeng, let me tell you, even if there are only 2 human beings left in my hands, a man and a woman, I will still be the savior of mankind. If it weren't for me, all the humans would have died. There wouldn't be a single survivor. That guy, Sect Master Tongtian, wants to destroy the entire origin world and countless subworlds. No one can survive, including your Yamato city. So tell me everything you know. Otherwise, before sect leader Tongtian takes action, I will destroy your Yamato city first. I'm not a stubborn and principled saint. I can do anything. As long as I can save mankind, I will always have a clear conscience. Gohan walked up to Wuzhang Shifeng and said coldly, leaving no room for refusal. And when Wuzhang Shifeng saw Gohan's cold eyes, he knew that the other party was telling the truth. If he continued to hide it, the entire Yamato city, as well as the thousands of people in the city, would be destroyed. Moreover, even if Wuzhang Shifeng was reluctant, he had to admit that only Gohan could save the world. I'll tell you. Wuzhang Shifeng let out a long sigh and finally opened his mouth. Chapter 1538. It all started when I killed that old B****starred. I thought my actions were flawless, but I didn't expect a woman to be standing in the void. She saw me leave my father in the lurch, Wuzhang Shifeng said with his head lowered. This woman told me that she knew what I was thinking and what I wanted. She could help me keep this secret and even help me realize my dream. As long as I listened to her and joined her organization, it would be enough. Wuzhang Shifeng said. A woman? What kind of woman is she? Gohan asked. An extremely powerful woman. At this point, Wuzhang Shifeng couldn't help but shiver. She's very strong, terrifyingly strong. The void is like a toy in front of her. She can control it at will. She can even open a void gate directly to the moon. She only used one look to kill that universe-level Yuan Ko. That was a universe-level Yuan Ko. Even an Emperor sword wielder would have to fight a powerful opponent for more than 10 minutes. Just like that, he was killed by her gaze. That's not the scariest thing. The scariest thing is that she holds the secrets of life and death. Wuzhang Shifeng trembled even more violently. That bastard, I clearly saw him being eaten by Yuanko with my own eyes. Then, that woman cut open Yuanko's stomach and took out my father, who only had half a head left. In front of me, he resurrected that half a head into a complete body. He even resurrected him for real, giving that bastard new life and resurrecting him for real. I'm 100% sure that it was the original B** starred that was resurrected. I'll never forget the look of hatred in his eyes. As Wuzhang Shifeng spoke, he couldn't help but hug his head. His words were filled with boundless fear. You're saying that woman only used half a head to resurrect your father? Guhan grabbed Wuzhang Shifeng's collar and asked. Wuzhang Shifeng nodded his head vigorously to show that he was telling the truth. Guhan, isn't this your ability? Song Yifei was also shocked. He couldn't help but look at Gohan. Song Yifei naturally recalled what happened a few months ago. There was also only half a head left, and the owner of this head had been dead for 4 years. However, such a head had been resurrected by Gohan in an unbelievable way, which certainly reminded Song Yifei of the man beside him. That woman is not me, Gohan said with some annoyance. It's not difficult. As long as you master the ability to split consciousness fragments, you can do it. For example, sect leader Tong Tian has already stood at the top of the sages and even surpassed the sages' abilities. He can also do this kind of thing. Moreover, he can do it faster, better, and more perfectly than me. This woman may be a doppelganger of sect leader Tong Tian. But according to him, this incident happened at least 30 years ago. At that time, Master was still alive, so sect leader Tong Tian shouldn't have been resurrected. Song Yifei said puzzledly. Right, Master once said that when the seamless corridor exploded, that was actually when the Grandmaster Tong Tian escaped. Perhaps the Grandmaster Tong Tian had already been resurrected, but he had been hiding in this world the entire time. Only when he had more or less recovered did he go to Master's place to retrieve the black crystal. Song Yifei began to let his imagination run wild as he began to analyze the situation. However, he didn't notice that Guhan's face had become incomparably ugly. Enough. To Song Yifei's surprise, Guhan suddenly roared at him. Song Yifei was stunned by the roar, and tears of grievance flowed out of the corners of his eyes. However, he didn't dare to say anything more and could only shut his mouth obediently. Go on, Guhan said to Wuzhang Shifeng. At that time, I knew that I was no match for that woman, no matter what, but I still chose to refuse. I said that I would never do anything that would betray human beings. Even if she could expose my behavior, I would commit suicide on the spot, and I would never be forced by her. Wuzhang Shifeng looked at Gohan and Song Yifei curiously. He didn't know what had happened between them, but he still answered. That woman told me that she didn't want me to do anything that would betray human beings. She just wanted me to join an organization and become a member of that organization. This organization would take the initiative to support the growth of its members, so that they could smoothly advance to the peak of human beings. The price was that they had to carry out the task given by the organization, but the members could judge for themselves whether this task was a betrayal of human beings. If it was, the members of the organization had the right to refuse. If it wasn't, the presiding member had to carry out the task. I hesitated, not knowing whether I should join the organization or not, so the woman directly took me to the organization's headquarters and let me meet some other members in this headquarters. Finally, I made up my mind to join the organization. Wuzhang Shifang said in a deep voice. Don't tell me first. Let me guess who the members of this organization are. Wuzhang Shifang originally wanted to say the members of the organization directly, but Gohan waved his hand and said, I'm not sure about others, but there must be either Longshi Jiandi or Haotian Jiandi in this organization, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't have joined the organization so easily. Your Majesty Hongjun, you are really full of wisdom. Wuzhang Shifang smiled bitterly. But you guessed wrong. There was not only one of these two, but both Jiandi were in this organization. But at that time, Longshi Jiandi was just Longshi Jiandi, and the other one who appeared there was Ku Shui Jiandi, who ascended to immortality 27 years ago. Both he and Haotian Jiandi were members of this organization. Really? Hearing Wuzhang Shifang's words, Gohan didn't seem to have any reaction on the surface, but in fact, he was shocked. Both Jiandi, who were regarded as the pillars of human beings, were members of this organization. It could be said that the power of this organization had already grasped the high-end power of the entire human race. It would not be a problem for this organization to directly change its name to the Sword Committee Headquarters. What was the fundamental meaning of such an organization's existence? It was because I saw His Majesty Ku Shui Jiandi and His Majesty Haotian Jiandi that I joined this organization without hesitation. I felt that since this organization had included all the high-level human beings, it was actually equivalent to controlling all the power of human beings. If such an organization wanted to destroy human beings, it would be easier than anything else. What was the need for me to resist? Wuzhang Shifang recalled. After joining this organization for a long time, I discovered that the organization seemed to only select human elites to invite, and the humans who were invited to join the organization were at least spirit sword bearers. 60% of the human immortal sword bearers were also members of this organization. By the way, Miss Song Yifei, your teacher, Sword Immortal Baiju Wudao, is also a member of this organization, and he is much older than me. Wuzhang Shifang suddenly looked at Song Yifei and said. Song Yifei had a blank expression on her face. In fact, Song Yifei did not have deep feelings for Wudao. After all, it had only been a few days since they became master and disciple, and Wudao had already sacrificed his life for human beings. However, there was no doubt that Wudao was a very important existence in Song Yifei's life. Song Yifei would never forget him for the rest of her life. On the anniversary of Wudao's death, Song Yifei would also hold a memorial ceremony for her master. Song Yifei still had some feelings for Wudao. Later, I received several missions issued by the organization one after another. These missions gave me a coordinate and asked me to go to Fusang Island to find something. Because this mission did not cause any harm to human beings, and instead could kill Yuan Ko, I went, Wuzhang Shifang said. This is the reason why you often went to Fusang Island when you were young. Gohan revealed a look of sudden realization. No wonder in the official records, Wuzhang Shifang went to Fusang Island every day when he was young. Most of his reputation was established on Fusang Island. In the beginning, Gohan thought that Wuzhang Shifang was doing this to get closer to his homeworld. He never expected it to be the organization's mission. I came to Fusang Island more than 10 times and experienced countless failures. I finally succeeded on my last attempt. I successfully found a cave and dug in the cave according to the directions given by the organization for 3 months. Finally, I dug out a secret passageway. through this secret passageway I found a brand new dimensional rift, which is the world filled with demons that you know of. After a simple investigation of that world and seeing the hundreds of thousands of pure-blooded Yamato humans, my heart began to stir because at that moment, I seemed to see the hope of rebuilding the Yamato race. In the end, when I completed the mission and returned to the organization, that woman found me again. She told me that there were two choices in front of me. One was to quit the organization and have nothing to do with it from now on. The secret passageway would also be taken over by the organization, and I was not allowed to go near that secret passageway. The second was to follow the organization's instructions and go to another dimensional world. Then, I became a half-human and half-human being, half Yuan Ko. The organization would help me manage the relationship with the Fusang Divine System, so that Yuan Ko of the Fusang Divine System would not interfere with my construction of the city on Fusang Island. They would maintain peaceful coexistence with me and acquiesce to the existence of a human city on Fusang Island. Wuzhang Shifang suddenly let out a long sigh. So, 6 years ago, I went to another dimensional world and became what I am now. Because of the filth in my body, I could no longer enter the dimensional barrier. In addition, 12 Zhu Wu happened to appear at that time, so I simply chose to fake my death and build this small Yamato city. Chapter 1539. At this moment, the mysteries of Wuzhang Shifang were almost solved. Many strange things about Wuzhang Shifang had been explained, such as his relationship with Yuan Ko and his relationship with the alternate space. All these questions had been answered. But then, a new mystery appeared, and that was, what was the truth behind the mysterious organization that was hiding behind Wuzhang Shifang? In fact, there was no need for Wuzhang Shifang to take the initiative to speak. In fact, Gohan had already been aware of this organization. He had long felt that there had always been a vague fog behind the high-level human leaders, which he could not see clearly. However, Gohan did not expect that this layer of fog would be so thick that it had involved most of the high-level human leaders. However, after knowing this, Gohan did not seem too frightened. Instead, he became a little calmer. The reason was very simple. If this organization really wanted to harm mankind, it would be impossible for such a large proportion of the high-level human leaders to join this organization. The reason was very simple. Take a small country in the Middle East as an example. If this small country was compared to mankind, and the United States was compared to the Dark Forces, then if the United States had already controlled more than 60% of the high-level leaders of this small country, including the President and Prime Minister of this small country, and made them his people, would he still need to spend so much effort to attack this small country? Directly ordering the higher-ups under his control to make this small country self-destruct. This was not a difficult thing to do. The higher-ups only needed to make a few wrong decisions or choose to stand by and do nothing at the crucial moment. Then, the humans would have perished countless times in the history of more than 1,000 years. Therefore, Gohan believed that the organization should not have too much malice toward mankind. At least before the Tongtian sect was completely resurrected, this organization did not intend to do anything to destroy mankind. What really worried Gohan about this organization was their relationship with the Tongtian sect. It would naturally be best if this organization had nothing to do with the Tongtian sect. However, if this organization was actually a foreshadowing left by the Tongtian sect, then as mentioned before, this organization might be harmless to mankind before the Tongtian sect was resurrected. However, after the Tongtian sect was completely resurrected, this organization was likely to become the best means for the Tongtian sect to destroy mankind. Is this organization really related to the sect leader of Tongtian? Although Gohan did not want to admit it, he felt that this organization was most likely related to Tongtian. The most obvious evidence was the consciousness fragment left by sect leader Tongtian in the cave. According to Wu Zhangshifang, this cave did not exist in the first place. It was a cave that Wu Zhangshifang had dug out based on his own exploration. Finally, he had passed through this cave to reach the alternate dimension. Naturally, it was impossible for Zhang Shifang to achieve this with his own abilities. Only someone who was incomparably familiar with the alternate dimension could dig a cave from the outside that led directly to the alternate dimension. In that case, there was no doubt that the person who gave orders behind the scenes was someone who had a deep understanding of the alternate dimension. In fact, he was the one who created this alternate dimension back then. The consciousness fragment obviously appeared there after the cave was dug. In other words, the Tongtian sect had come here after the cave was dug, which was why he had left his consciousness fragment at the entrance. Although it was possible that the Tongtian sect had found this place based on his memory of the alternate dimension without knowing it beforehand, there was no doubt that the Tongtian sect had already known everything here. At the thought of this, Gohan felt that he could not let Wu Zhangshifang go on like this anymore. He helped Wu Zhangshifang up from the ground and looked at him seriously. "It's very dangerous here. You can't stay here anymore. I can forgive your betrayal on behalf of mankind. Take the people here back to Yanjing City. I promise that no one will make things difficult for you. Everyone can enjoy the same treatment, and there will never be any discrimination." "Go back?" Wu Zhangshifang was stunned for a moment. He took a deep look at Gohan. "I'm not human anymore? Can I still go back?" "Of course you can," Gohan said with certainty. "As long as your heart is with us humans, you are one of us. We will not make the same mistake as Mingyuan Jiandi. You can believe me. I promise with my integrity. Go back." Wu Zhangshifang's eyes revealed a blank expression. Obviously, he began to feel conflicted. After a long silence, Wu Zhangshifang finally shook his head firmly. "Hongjun Jiandi, you don't have to say any more. This is my lifelong dream. Even if my body turns into ashes, I will never leave Yamato City that belongs to me." "Really?" Gohan took a deep look at Wu Zhangshifang. He knew that there was no need to persuade him anymore. Wu Zhangshifang would not change his mind just because of a few words. "What about these children? And these aborigines?" Gohan looked at the aborigines who were playing happily outside the door. "What kind of ending do you want to give them? Don't tell me you want to forcibly place your will on these innocent people? It is very safe here." Wu Zhangshifang gritted his teeth. "I can give them a safe world. They are also the cornerstone of the future of Yamato City. I can guarantee their safety." "What a joke!" Gohan began to laugh coldly. "I can kill all the humans here with one sword. You don't even have the ability to resist me. Do you really have the cheek to say that you can give them a safe world?" Gohan Fang's words made Wu Zhangshifang speechless. This was the truth. Faced with the incomparably powerful Gohan, Wu Zhangshifang had no choice but to kneel and beg for mercy. Otherwise, the entire Yamato City would be destroyed. "As long as your majesty doesn't do anything, Wu Zhangshifang still wanted to argue. "So what if I don't do anything?" Gohan continued to expose Wu Zhangshifang's ridiculous delusion. "You are just an immortal sword-level swordsman. The strongest among the rest is just a famed sword-level swordsman. The Fuso Divine Branch's Yuenko can exterminate your small city more than 100 times. Why are you giving them safety? This is what the organization has promised me." Wu Zhangshifang raised his head abruptly and said, "Moreover, in the past 6 years, just like what the organization said, Yamato City has been very peaceful and safe. Not a single Yuenko has come to trouble us. I've even communicated with some of the Yuenko's higher-ups, and they all promised me that they're willing to accept our Yamato City. Let's not talk about the effectiveness of the organization's promise. Let me tell you, this organization won't live for long. I will not allow such a lawless organization to exist behind the human race. I will crush this organization completely. Since his name has never appeared in human history, then don't even think about appearing in the future. He will not exist, Gu Han said coldly. Wu Zhangshifang had to believe Gu Han's words. The organization had always been very mysterious. But except for that woman, almost all the members of the organization were humans themselves. Now that the human race had been controlled by Gu Han's disciple, and his woman, the organization's power had been wiped out. The only one left was probably that mysterious woman. But Wu Zhangshifang did not think that woman was a match for Gu Han. This was because Wu Zhangshifang, Long Jiandi, and all the other senior members of the organization had looked for that woman together and sincerely begged her to help the human race and kill 12 Zhu Wu. But that woman refused without hesitation and told them very clearly that 12 Zhu Wu was very powerful. She was not a match for 12 Zhu Wu and would not seek her own death. Now that 12 Zhu Wu had died in the hands of Gu Han, didn't this mean that Gu Han was stronger than that woman? Therefore, in the face of Gu Han's powerful suppression, Wu Zhangshifang felt that this time, the organization was likely to usher in a real doomsday. That woman would eventually die under Gu Han's strangulation. Senior Wu Zhangshifang, I will call you senior for the last time. Don't be stubborn. Your Yamato city can't be rebuilt, and your Yamato people will eventually disappear in the long river of history and become one with all the human race. Don't be stubborn. Gu Han advised for the last time. Let them make their own decision. Wu Zhangshifang hesitated for a long time and finally sighed. I will summon everyone and tell them what you said. I will not stop those who are willing to go back to Yanjing City with you. But for those who are unwilling, I hope that your Majesty can respect their decision. After all, a melon that is forcibly taken will not be sweet. Good. Since they are willing to court death, I will not stop them. Gu Han nodded. Half an hour later, Wu Zhangshifang rang the bell to summon everyone, and the 121 sword-bearers and 3,624 indigenous people of Yamato City gathered in the center of the city square. In front of everyone, Wu Zhangshifang directly introduced Gu Han's identity. When they heard that Gu Han was the famous Hong Jun Jiandi who killed 12 Zhu Wu, the indigenous people did not have any reaction, but all the sword-bearers were shocked. Although they were hiding on Fusang Island, they were all sword-bearers who had spent their childhood in human-based cities. They had experienced the tragic period when the 12 ancestors of sorcery had beaten up the humans. When they found out that a human could kill the 12 ancestors of sorcery on his own, it was imaginable how shocked they were. Chapter 1540. Greetings, Your Majesty Hong Jun. After the excitement, everyone remembered that Gu Han had another identity, and that was the human Jiandi. So all the sword-bearers knelt on the ground one after another and bowed respectfully to Gu Han. Only Amakusa Ichiro remained motionless. It was not that he did not respect the cold, but he had fallen into a state of dizziness. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that the person who saved him and the others from the alternate dimension and fought alongside him at the same time was one of the strongest in human history. This sudden news completely shattered Ichiro Amakusa's rationality, and he felt dizzy all over. His Majesty Hong Jun came this time to persuade us to go back. Wu Zhangshifang did not play dumb with his men and directly stated Gu Han's purpose. His Majesty Hong Jun said that it is impossible to build our Yamato city, and we will only wait for death if we stay here. I thought about it for a long time, and I think what His Majesty said does make sense. If we stay here, there is a great chance that we will be buried in this land. I don't want everyone to become a victim of my personal obsession. After His Majesty's persuasion, I decided to give everyone a chance to choose. Those who are willing to return to Yanjing City and reintegrate into the human family can leave with His Majesty. With His Majesty's protection, I believe all of you can reach Yanjing City safely. Wu Zhangshifang said indifferently. As soon as Wu Zhangshifang finished speaking, all the sword-bearers broke into an uproar. In fact, there was no need for Wushang Shifang to admit it. All the sword-bearers present knew in their hearts that it was difficult for this weak Yamato city to survive. Their dream of rebuilding the Yamato people had less than 20% chance of coming true. It was just that because of Wushang Shifang's brainwashing and training, as well as his betrayal of human beings, these sword-bearers had no choice but to stay in Yamato City and take a gamble. But now there was a choice. Hongjun Jiandi appeared in front of everyone in person and promised that Yanjing City would not care about this betrayal. This was probably the only chance for them to return to the relatively safe human family. Everyone knew that this was a decision related to their lives. However, when he thought about his dream and the 6 years he had worked hard for, his desire to leave became much dimmer. Therefore, the situation fell into a stalemate. Lord Wushang Shifang, what about you? Would you like to leave with us? Suddenly, someone asked Wushang Shifang in a loud voice. I won't go. Wushang Shifang lightly said, This is my dream. This is my burial place. I will never leave this place. Then I won't leave either. I'm not leaving either. We will accompany you. Wushang Shifang's prestige in this city was really unparalleled. Therefore, after Wushang Shifang expressed his position, most of the sword-bearers shouted one after another, saying that they would live and die with Wushang Shifang, advance and retreat together, and never separate. Then, those who want to leave, please come forward. When Wushang Shifang saw everyone shouting his name, he was so excited that his eyes were full of tears, and he choked with sobs as he spoke to his men. Seeing this scene, Gohan knew that he was going to lose this time. Sure enough, after Wushang Shifang shed tears, the scene became even more excited. There was not even a sword-bearer who stood up and was ready to leave. I will stay here tonight. That's it. Those who want to stay here, stay in your residence tonight and are not allowed to go out. If anyone wants to leave with me, gather in this square in the early hours of the morning. I will take all of you with me. In the face of this excited scene, which was shouting Wushang Shifang's name, Gohan said calmly in a loud voice that suppressed all the people present. What a vicious move! Wushang Shifang's eyes widened as he stared at Gohan. Wushang Shifang had to admit that Gohan's words were too poisonous. Humans were herd animals and were easily affected by collective emotions. Even elite humans like the sword-bearers were no exception. Even if there were sword-bearers who were clear-headed in the crowd, due to the current situation, even if they wanted to leave with Gohan, they didn't have the courage to take the initiative to stand up. And Gohan's last sentence had the effect of taking drastic measures. There was still more than half a day before 12 a.m., which was enough time for people to calm down. Then, those sword-bearers who had calmed down could take advantage of the dark and windy night, as well as the restriction of those who wanted to stay here, to let go of all the restrictions and leave with Gohan. That was why Wushang Shifang said that Gohan's move was extremely vicious, completely destroying the collective emotions that Wushang Shifang had worked so hard to mobilize. In fact, that night, many people could hear hurried footsteps coming from outside the room. Obviously, some people were planning to leave here. Some of the sword-bearers who wanted to stay in Yamato City wanted to go out and stop the others from leaving. However, as soon as they got close to their doors, they discovered that there was a line of small words carved on their doors using sword chi. Once this door is opened, you must leave. The meaning of this sentence was very simple. As long as anyone dared to open this door, it meant that they wanted to leave Yamato City and Wushang Shifang, and then Gohan would forcibly take them away, never giving them any room to choose. Facing such a situation, of course, those sword-bearers who really wanted to stay here didn't dare to open their door again. They could only wait in torment until dawn before silently opening their door. How is it? After dawn, Wushang Shifang had been sitting in his room, not even going out, just waiting for his subordinate to report. His Majesty Hongjun has left. The person who reported to Wuzhang Shifang was none other than Amakusa Ichiro. I know he has left, but I'm asking, how many people left with him? Wuzhang Shifang said with a bitter smile. Amakusa Ichiro hesitated for a while, probably thinking that his concealment was not very useful, and Wuzhang Shifang would know the real number sooner or later, so in the end, he nodded and said, out of 121 brothers, 38 people stayed. That means that 2/3 of the people have left. Wuzhang Shifang's body could not help but tremble. He had already guessed that many people would choose to leave. But he did not expect that there would be so many people who chose to leave. This was a direct force that he had cultivated for only 20 to 30 years, and they were all sword-bearers that he had personally trained. But now 2/3 of them actually chose to leave. Originally, Wuzhang Shifang thought that the number 38 should only be the number of people who left. Sir, do you want me to chase after them? Seeing Wuzhang Shifang's pale face, Amakusa Ichiro immediately said, they just left not long ago, if we chase after them now, we should still be able to catch up. What a joke, with His Majesty Hongjun escorting them personally, even I can't catch up. How can you catch up? Wuzhang Shifang glared at Amakusa Ichiro, then waved his hand helplessly and said, forget it, a melon forcibly picked won't be sweet, let them go. By the way, those natives, are they still here? Wuzhang Shifang suddenly asked nervously. Not yet, after all, the natives do not understand Huaxia, so they do not know that they can leave at night. I took a look just now, most of the natives are still here, only a small number of them disappeared. Probably when they went to the toilet at night, Hongjun Jiendi took them away, thinking that they wanted to leave. Now, at least 90% of the natives are still here with us. Then that's enough. Wuzhang Shifang took a deep breath, then clenched his fists tightly and said, as long as we have these 38 children who are of the same mind as me, and the blood that truly belongs to our Yamato people will definitely be reborn. Wuzhang Shifang said with determination. Okay, I will send you here, we can go our separate ways. A few hours later, on the beach of Japan, Gohan looked at the sword-bearers behind him, who were anxious but full of hope for a new life, and then said to Song Yifei, who was next to him, where are you going? Song Yifei was startled by Gohan's words. Didn't they agree to send these sword-bearers back to Yanjing City together? Why did they have to separate again? Did you forget that my Qinpin sword is still in that strange space? I have to bring her back before I can leave here. Gohan said with a smile, take them back to Yanjing City first. When I get the Qinpin sword back, I will also return to Yanjing City. You are talking nonsense. Hearing Gohan's relaxed words, Song Yifei raised his head angrily and looked at Gohan with a worried face. If you only want to get the Qinpin sword back, you could have gotten it when you set off. Why did you have to come to this remote border to split yourself? You don't just want to get the Qinpin sword back, you must know something, so you sent me away to enter that strange space. Why did you have to send me away? I get it, it must be because it is very dangerous there, and you are afraid that I will be hurt, so you force me to leave. Although the monsters there are very strong, none of them is a match for you. I will not be in danger with your protection, but you still sent me away. However, you still wanted to send me away. This means that the danger there is definitely not as simple as a few monsters. There must be an even greater danger there. It's sect leader Tongtian. It must be sect leader Tongtian. You must know that sect leader Tongtian is going back soon, so you're here to ambush him. You want to assassinate. Song Yifei was so smart that she could guess so many things in one breath. Unfortunately, she could not finish her words, because Gohan put Song Yifei and all the people here into the void, and at the same time, completely sealed the nearby void, so that Song Yifei could not come out. Yifei, if you really want to help me, then send these people back. Otherwise, on the battlefield, I have to take care of your safety. You are not a helper to me, but a burden. Do you understand? Gohan's voice sounded in the void. After Song Yifei buried her head and cried for a long time, she stood up and said to the others in a hoarse voice, "Let's go, I will send you back." Chapter 1541. Qing Pin, how's the situation here? How was your day? When Qing Pin was lying on the bed in a daze, a familiar voice suddenly sounded beside him. "Guhan." Qing Pin immediately jumped up from the bed excitedly, only to find that a monster with a tiger's head and a snake's tail had appeared in his room. "Guhan? How did you become like this?" Seeing Guhan's new appearance, Qing Pin said with some surprise. "If I didn't become like this, how could I approach here quietly?" Guhan hit Qing Pin's little head, then smiled and said, "Tell me, what happened here during the day I was away? It was lively when you were away." Qing Pin pouted and said with a smile, "First, the two junior sisters had a big fight. They seemed to blame each other for not doing their best. Then, they scolded all the other monsters. In addition, all the humans in the alternate dimension seemed to have been gathered by them. I haven't seen them for several hours." "They are gathering humans? What do these monsters want? Don't tell me they want to take revenge on these human aborigines," Guhan said with some worry. If this was the case, then Guhan was in some trouble again. "Guhan, should we save them?" Qing Pin asked with some excitement and curiosity. "Forget it." Guhan pondered for a long time and finally shook his head and said, "If they die, they die. This is their fate." "Why? With your strength, Guhan, you can obviously save them," Qing Pin asked puzzledly. "Because I have a more important task to do." Guhan sighed, then touched Qing Pin's little head, and finally said, "Qing Pin, if Guhan wanted to kill your old master, what would you do?" "What old master?" Qing Pin looked at Guhan innocently and said, "Qing Pin has only one master since the beginning. Old master is the master of that bad woman, but he has never been the master of Qing Pin. Qing Pin has only one master, Guhan." "Good treasure." Guhan excitedly held Qing Pin in his arms. If it weren't for the fact that his head was inconvenient, Guhan would definitely give Qing Pin a good kiss. "Good treasure. I've already calculated that sect leader Tong Tian will definitely return to this alternate space in 1 or 2 months at the earliest. The moment he returns will be the moment of his death. I, your master, will do everything in my power to kill this culprit here and completely end the miserable suffering of our human race for thousands of years," Guhan said as he clenched his fist. "Lord Qingping, it's time. You can come out and meet everyone." Not long after, Goddess Incongruence walked into Qingping's room, and a strange expression immediately appeared on her face. Because Qingping was not the only one in Qingping's room at this time, but there was also a little monster here. This little monster was extremely weak at first glance. It was almost the weakest monster in the entire alternate space. Nobody knew which monster this newborn was, but it actually appeared in Qingping's room. This little monster was currently tossing the esteemed Lord Qing Ping into the air like a rag doll, and then catching it in her hands. Qing Ping was even more excited as she shouted, "Raise it up high, throw it up high," and the like. "Which brat is so daring to disturb Lord Qingping's rest? Who gave you the courage to appear here? Get out of here, and immediately go to the punishment hall to receive 30 strikes of the amethyst magic rod." Goddess Incongruence said coldly. The amethyst magic rod was a rod made of amethyst wood. At the same time, it was also imbued with the spells of the Jie school. The pain caused by hitting the monster's body was 100 times stronger than that of an ordinary wooden rod. The power of the amethyst wood could also cause some damage to the soul. It was one of the punishments that everyone feared. After these 30 strikes, this little monster would probably lose half of its life. "Lord Qingpin, save me please, save me." This little monster was so frightened that he immediately knelt in front of Qingping and begged for mercy. Qingping immediately said, "This has nothing to do with him. I want him to play with me, so he can stay by my side." Lord Qingping, nothing can be accomplished without rules. If you want to find someone to play with you, then I'll find you someone who looks more handsome. They're much stronger than this little monster. This needs to be taught a lesson. Goddess Incongruence said with flames in her eyes, as if she had to teach this little monster a lesson. No, I want him to play with me. I don't want anyone else. Qingping stomped her cute little feet and said to Goddess Incongruence with a pout, I want him. You won't even give me face? Why don't you drag me and him to beat the rod together? I don't dare, I don't dare. Goddess Incongruence shook her head when she heard Qingping say that. Qingping was the sword of the sect leader of heaven. It represented the will of the sect leader of heaven. It was like an imperial sword, so how could Goddess Incongruence dare to beat Qingping? Moreover, it was almost certain that her master, the sect leader of heaven, had been resurrected, and the other sages were all dead. The sect leader of heaven was the only sage left in the world. The future ownership of the world would definitely belong to the sect leader of heaven. Under such circumstances, how could Goddess Incongruence dare to offend Qingping? In the end, she could only give in, and the little monster successfully escaped. Why did you come to me? Didn't we agree not to bother me unless there's something else? Qingping was relieved when she saw Goddess Incongruence backing down. At the same time, she asked in dissatisfaction. It's like this, Goddess Incongruence explained. The Incongruence Divine Mother explained. Didn't we agree yesterday? I hope that Lady Qingping can go up to the rostrum today and tell us about the situation in the outside world. Tell us about the situation outside and which factions are in control. Jie School has been trapped in this small place for hundreds of thousands of years. We still know nothing about the outside world. Everyone is very curious. Ah, so troublesome. Qingping said tiredly when she heard that she was invited to talk about the outside world. However, she could only pinch her nose and agree since she had already agreed to it. Find a chance later. Drag that little monster out and kill it for me. Do you understand? Goddess Incongruence said to the few big monster guards at the door when she left Qingping's room. An hour later, the monsters gathered at the square again. Qingping also made her grand entrance amidst the cheers of many monsters. However, what confused Goddess Incongruence was that the little monster was still by Qingping's side, while the few monster guards were nowhere to be seen. Goddess Incongruence did not know what happened inside. Goddess Incongruence did not have the time to investigate this matter, because the report about the outside world had already begun. To be honest, Qingping was not an excellent storyteller. Or rather, she was not even worthy of being a qualified storyteller. Be it the words she said or the stories she told, they were somewhat confusing. At the same time, there were many childish sounds in her words, making it difficult for the many demons to listen to her. Even so, the monsters finally understood the situation of the outside world. They knew that the outside world was in complete chaos. Humans, Yuan Ko and Yuan Ko were killing each other endlessly. The humans had 8 base cities, while the monsters had many powerful forces. The war between the two had lasted for 1,000 years. However, according to Qingping's narration, she was no longer a sword maiden with a master. Instead, she was a sword maiden that had awakened on her own without any master. She wandered around the outside world for a few years and finally found this place. All the monsters who heard this story were dumbfounded. They never expected that such a huge change would happen in the past 1,000 years. Those guys from the 2D world had actually appeared in the main world. This was something that they had never heard of before, which made the monsters even more incredulous. According to Qingping, wouldn't there be people who looked exactly like her in the outside world? After all, they also existed in the 2D world. Lady Qingping, is there Yuan Ko outside who impersonated me and senior sister? Divine Mother Incongruence asked with a hint of seriousness after figuring out the situation. I don't know. Qingping shook her head. But the two of you are definitely not among the Yuan Ko that I've seen. If there really is one, that'll be interesting. Should I kill that impersonator with my own hands? Divine Mother Incongruence looked at her hands blankly and said, Also, can I defeat my other self? Of course, these impersonators should be killed. There can only be one of me in the world, Lady Yunxiao said coldly. As for strength, if I'm weaker than an impersonator, I'd rather die in the hands of this impersonator. Hee hee. Divine Mother Incongruence laughed dryly. It was obvious that she did not agree with Lady Yunxiao's words. However, she could not refute it directly, so she asked, Lady Qingping, what's the level of the person with the highest combat power outside? Is there a sage-level combat power? This was a question that everyone was very concerned about. If there was no sage-level combat power outside, then their master could really do whatever he wanted. No, there are at most some guys who are similar to the two of you out there. There's definitely no one who can reach master's level, Qingping said with certainty. Her words made everyone heave a sigh of relief. It's great that there's no one. In that case, spring will come for us. Once master appears, it'll be time for everyone to rule the world. Lady Qingping, who's the number one expert out there? Is it a human or that Yuan Ko? Who's more powerful? Some monsters below the stage asked excitedly. Chapter 1542. The number one expert should be a human called Guhan. Qingping pretended that she did not know him and said to the crowd, The number one expert should be a human called Guhan. What? The number one expert outside is a human? Hearing this answer, all the monsters expressed their astonishment. They took it for granted that since Yuan Ko was a two-dimensional creature, it was impossible for a human to be the number one expert no matter what. According to Qingping, anyone other than the sages could appear in Yuanko, which meant that the super freaks in the untainted land, such as Emperor Jun, Tai, Fuxi, Mingyi, and the 12 ancestors of sorcery, any one of these peerless masters could easily defeat the whole world. How could a human be the number one master? Lady Qingping, are you kidding us? How could this human be the number one expert? Monsters were all straightforward, so one of them jumped out and asked immediately. That's right, the number one expert is a human called Gu Han. As Qingping spoke, she raised both her hands to show that she was certain of her words. What did he do? Did Lady Qingping say that he was the number one expert just because he defeated a few lousy guys? Or did all the real experts die? A few monsters made a ruckus, causing all the monsters to burst into laughter. The scene suddenly became very cheerful. I don't know which Yuan Ko he killed before, but I know that he killed some Yuan Ko recently. Qingping looked at the laughter and said with dissatisfaction. Who did he kill? He killed 12 Zuwu. Oh, so it's trash like the 12 ancestral witches. Before the demons could finish their sentence, the joyous scene froze. Everyone looked at each other in disbelief and focused their attention on Qingping's face. Even the silent goddess Incongruence and Lady Yun Xiao had the same expression. Lady Qingping, you're not joking, right? Can you say it again? Who did Gohan kill? After a long silence, a monster swallowed and asked. The 12 Grand Wizards. Qingping repeated the name again. This time, the monsters did not say anything. They all knew who 12 Zuwu was. After all, they had stayed in this boring world for so long, and the only stories that could kill time were the stories from the primitive times. In the stories from the primitive times there were always two main characters. One was the monster clan, and the other was the Wu people. No matter what the story was, 12 Zuwu was a powerful opponent. As the bloodline of Pengu, they had the power to stir up the world. They could kill a Qilin with a stomp and blow down a phoenix with a breath. They could destroy the heavenly court of the monster clan that had thousands of monsters at its peak and make them flee in all directions. When these 12 fellows gathered together, even saints would have to avoid them. Yet, such terrifying fellows actually died in the hands of a human. This sounded a little too ridiculous. If that was really the case, how powerful was this human? The level of a sage? At the thought of this, the monsters started to get restless again. The monsters, who had thought that the whole world was just around the corner, suddenly felt that the future would not be so smooth. Gohan was likely to become their biggest opponent. They might die in the hands of Gohan in the future battles. These monsters had stayed in this alternate space for hundreds of thousands of years. During these hundreds of thousands of years, they did not have any opponent. Therefore, their bloodthirst and combat ability from the primitive times had long been erased. After hearing that there was such a terrifying opponent, many monsters started to want to retreat. Everyone, calm down. Perhaps you didn't understand Lady Qingping's words clearly. Lady Qingping didn't say that the human defeated the 12 ancestral sorcerers, but only one of the 12 ancestral sorcerers. Everyone, don't panic. It's not impossible for Senior Sister and I to defeat an ancestral sorcerer. The incongruous Divine Mother immediately jumped up and said when she saw the emotions of her subordinates fluctuating. That's right. This Gohan definitely didn't kill 12 Zuwus. He only killed one of the 12 Zuwus. Everyone immediately felt that Divine Mother Wudong's explanation made sense. They all breathed a sigh of relief and smiled. However, in the next second, those smiles disappeared again. It's not just one, it's 12. 12 Zuwus died together. I'm not wrong. I also saw them use the 12 Divine Fiend formation to gather the Pangareel body, but they were also killed by Gohan. I saw it with my own eyes. At that time, I was hiding on a nearby mountain, so I can't be wrong. I'm not wrong. Qingping waved her little fist to prove that her mathematical logic was very correct. However, this sentence made the scene fall into silence for the third time. What a joke. Even the 12 Zuwus that had gathered the Pangareel body were defeated. Could this Gohan have already reached the level of a sage? The monsters thought in panic. They had not even seen Gohan's face, but they were already extremely afraid of Gohan. Why are you guys panicking? Those 12 Zuwus aren't the real 12 Zuwus. They're just imposters from another dimension. Their abilities can't reach the level of the real 12 Zuwus. It's probably 10% or 20% at most. That Gohan can't possibly become a sage. What are you guys panicking for? Divine Mother Wudong saw that the situation was getting out of control, so she immediately jumped up and said. What she said sounded quite reasonable. That's right. Those aren't the real 12 Zuwus. They're just imposters from another dimension. Their abilities are definitely not as strong as the real 12 Zuwus. Thinking that, the scene finally calmed down a little. Divine Mother Wudong probably felt that she could not let Qingping continue, so she turned and said to Lady Yunxiao, Senior Sister, I think that's it for today. Let's invite Madame Qingping back to rest. The incongruent saintess thought that Mistress Yun Shao would reply to her immediately. However, when the incongruent saintess spoke, Mistress Yun Shao didn't respond at all. Instead, she lowered her head and immersed herself in her own world. Nobody knew what she was thinking. Senior Sister. Senior Sister. Divine Mother Wudong shouted a few times before Lady Yun Shao woke up from her own world. However, when Lady Yun Shao woke up, the incongruous Divine Mother clearly saw some fear in Lady Yun Zhao's eyes. What's wrong, Senior Sister? Senior Sister, did you remember something? Divine Mother Wudong realized that something was wrong and immediately asked. Junior Sister, do you remember something like this that happened back then? Lady Yun Shao hesitated for a while, and then asked Divine Mother Wudong. What happened? That was before Goddess Nuwa became a saint. Master took in his last disciple, and this disciple even defeated Senior Brother Duo Bao. Do you remember this, Junior Sister? Lady Yun Zhao's body trembled slightly when she asked this question. That was before Goddess Nuwa became a saint. That's impossible. Hearing Lady Yun Zhao's words, Divine Mother Wudong was shocked at first. Then, she said with certainty, although senior brother Duo Bao betrayed Master later on, he's definitely the strongest among the 8 of us. Even if you still have the primordial chaos golden chalice, you're not senior brother Duo Bao's match. Don't forget that the 3 of you sparred with senior brother Duo Bao and were all defeated by senior brother Duo Bao. Even the 3 of you are not senior brother Duo Bao's match. Among the 8 of us, who else can defeat senior brother Duo Bao? Tell me, among the 8 of us, who has the ability to defeat senior brother Duo Bao? You don't think that your brother, Zhao Gongming, has that ability, do you? Divine Mother Wudong was very proud when she said that. There was even some nostalgia between her brows. Looks like our incongruous Divine Mother still has some indescribable feelings for her senior brother Duo Bao. What if the person who defeated senior brother Duo Bao isn't one of the 8 of us? Lady Yun Xiao said after hesitating for a while. Are you kidding me? Everyone in the world knows that Master only has the 8 of us as his disciples. How can there be a 9th person? Isn't your consciousness messed up? Divine Mother Wudong said unhappily. No, my consciousness is right and my memory is right too. After talking to you for so long, my memory is gradually becoming clearer. Lady Yun Zhao's eyes suddenly became clear. I remember now. You weren't there at that time. You were sent by Master to monitor Great Witch Ho-Yi. At that time, the 3 of us, brother Zhao Gongming, and senior brother Duo Bao were all in Baiyu Palace. Brother Zhao Gongming suddenly brought a guy in. Oh yeah, he even called himself a human then. At that time, Goddess Nuwa had yet to create humans, so how could there be humans in this world? After that, I don't remember what he said to Master. Master told him to fight with senior brother Duo Bao. If he could defeat senior brother Duo Bao, Master would take him in as the 9th disciple. In the end, he really defeated senior brother Duo Bao and even put his sword on senior brother Duo Bao's neck. The 3 of us were playing in the hall at that time. We don't remember much about what happened at the beginning, and we didn't care about it at all. It was only when the 2 of them started fighting that we realized something was wrong. There's such a thing. Why haven't I heard about it from the other brothers and sisters? Divine Mother Wudong felt that Lady Yun Xiao did not seem to be lying, so she said in disbelief. Actually, incongruent Saint Mother was not the only one who was in disbelief. At that moment, the little demon who was standing beside the Qingping sword also began to tremble violently. In fact, the degree of shock was even greater than incongruence Saint Mother's. Wasn't that an illusion? Did that really happen? I really went back to the primeval era? Gohan lowered his head, but the shock in him was like an atomic bomb. That was because only if Gohan really went back to the primeval era would Lady Yun Xiao retain her memory of what happened millions of years ago. However, if that was the case, many of Gohan's guesses and plans regarding history, himself, Sword Lady, Tong Tian, and the future would have to be changed. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.